Hello and welcome back to another out of spec detailing video. We have Jackie here from Everbrite. We also have two Tesla Cybertrucks, and we're going to be doing a little bit of a follow-up to the video that I posted one video, then you and I chatted online, and you've actually flown out here from California to give us a full demonstration on your product, what I did wrong, importantly, how we can assist folks who are interested in doing ProtectaClear on how to do it properly, because I think there's a little bit of miscommunication on my end, on some other folks' end. So we're going to clear a lot of stuff up today and get this entire Cybertruck completely coated. So welcome back and let's jump into it. So Jackie, first off, thanks for coming out. I am super pumped to see how this actually goes. So we actually have this truck here from a viewer, Chris. He came all the way down from the Springs. We also have our Cybertruck back there that I've done a different ceramic coating on. So we're going to be kind of testing these over an extended period of time, seeing, which actually works out better, because that's the biggest things. I want to see how they not only look right after they've been coated, but I also want to see durability. That's the big thing with this. How long is this product going to last? What's it going to look like after a year, 2 years of daily abuse, living outside, off-roading, all of that fun. So really anxious to get into this. So first off, let's start off with the product. ProtectaClear, what is it? Where did it come from? And how did it kind of get adapted to the Cybertruck?
So ProtectaClear is a blend of polymer resins and a solvent base. So different than a ceramic, right? It goes on different. It leaves a really nice, thin, protective shield. It's very hard and durable. It's an H8 pencil hardness, so very, very hard. Scratch resistant, scuff resistant, fingerprint resistant, most importantly for Cybertruck owners. So really how it came around, it's been on the market since 2006, but we saw the Cybertruck come out in January. People are starting to take delivery, and we saw, I think it was a Reddit post, and it was like, there's a real stainless steel car out there, let's hop in. So I hopped into the Cybertruck owners forum, spent 9 hours the first day answering questions from Cybertruck owners, and really just saw a huge desire for protection to keep the original color, because that's what it does. It doesn't change it. And to really keep the finish looking great all the time without having to wax it all the time or wash it all the time, and just really keep it looking great all the time.
Okay, cool. So I've seen multiple people talk about that it's a resin. Is that true?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So yeah, first off, the first video I did, I called it a ceramic coating probably 150 times. I don't even know. My detailing brain just goes, anytime you're coating anything, it's a ceramic coating, which it is not. So this is not a ceramic coating. The way I look at it as a detailer, it's like you're applying a clear coat, basically, that you would be to a paint, but it's made for stainless steel. And yeah, I think this is really, really unique. So you've been in the metal coating industry for a long time, right? Everbrite
has been around since the early 90s in its as a business. I've been in the business, well, it's a family business. I've been back in the business since 2017, and I teach contractors, metal restoration contractors, painting contractors all over the world how to use our products. So we've done our own online trainings, kind of similar to what we do for contractors. But I'm hoping that today we can get some film really for Cybertruck owners for them to know exactly what they need to do for the perfect outcome.
Absolutely. And first off, this video is going to be very long. I want to get into the weeds of this. I want to ask a lot of the questions that I had during the first video that I didn't ask you. And it's great having you here. It's very challenging as a professional detailer. I work with companies a lot, talk with them a lot. This ProtectaClear, in all honesty, has been probably one of the most that I've had to wrap my head around, I would say. And you and I talked about this, that detailers actually really struggle with this product.
For sure.
Because they try to apply it like a ceramic coating. You're like applying it, trying to fix areas. Oh no, I missed something here. And you're just like,
we were yelling at you so much. Like, you're doing it wrong.
Absolutely.
But so many detailers have done it that very way because that's what they're used to, and they assume that it's the same, and it's just very different.
Sure. So I've heard from quite a few people that they've struggled with this product. And I think it's a learning curve for everybody. I mean, you guys are adapting how you install it. You've changed up a few things in your kit, which I love to see. You don't just normally come out with a product and it's just amazing the first time. So we're evolving with this. we're still learning about Cybertruck. This has been out, I mean, we're in June now. What is this, June 2nd?
Yeah,
it's been out 6 months. How many people actually have these things? Not a ton. And a lot of them are getting wrapped too. So I think this is cool that you're here. First off, thank you for doing this. And I can't wait to see this. Now, starting into the prep side of things, this is where my confusion started.
Okay.
So Jordan, let's come over here. And importantly, Jordan is here from, of course, Out of Spec. He's filming behind the camera. So Jordan, if you have any questions today, because you and I actually shot the first video that I did. Right. And I was like, dude, I got to refilm this. And then I shot it by myself. Yeah, and then that's the video that went up. And
hence all the frustration.
Yes, quite a bit of frustration because I spent quite literally, I watched your first video and weirdly enough, your video came out the day before. We had no correspondence of, hey, this video is coming out. And then I posted it. I didn't even see yours went up, but we're going to get this all dialed in. So your kit that now comes with the truck. Let's talk a little bit about this. These are not with your kit. So run the viewers through what that is there, Jackie.
Yep. So we have Easy Prep, which is a soap and neutralizer. So if you're using anything acid-based, you're going to use the Easy Prep to neutralize it. It's also a mild pH balanced soap that will help when it's more in a milder form, watered down. It's used to clean the truck. We have stainless steel rust remover, which we're going to get into today. You don't have to remember the acronym, Coleton. Don't you just call it stainless steel rust remover? We're going to try it on some of the door banding because that's where we've seen success. It's really great. And then anything you're doing, anything you're using, you want to wipe it down with a 99% alcohol when you're done, or a denatured alcohol, because that's going to get any residue of anything you have off the truck. It's going to ensure a clean and dry surface. And I think you had asked why such a high percentage, and that is because you can't have any moisture left in the metal when you put the coating on, or the coating won't adhere to the Cybertruck.
Understood. Yeah, so one of my big questions with this was, so your first kit, which I actually had, did not come with isopropyl alcohol. So I used I think it was DIY Details panel prep. You picked up the bottle earlier today and you're like, this has surfactants in it. You don't want to be using this. So that was one of my questions was, okay, so in the coating, the ceramic coating industry, we always have a panel prep beforehand, getting polishing oils, fingerprints, any residue that's left over. You want the coating to adhere, which is the same thing as this. It's just a little bit different because it's stainless steel. So from my knowledge, you either use something like Geon Prep or DIY Detail panel prep for paint, and you're using very high strength isopropyl alcohol.
Because it almost sucks the moisture out of the metal, ensures that it's completely clean, completely dry, so that the metal, or so that the coating can adhere to the metal like it should.
Okay, very cool. So typically in detailing, just so you know, we use 70%. It is pretty normal ratio we use. So when I first saw that, I'm like, oh my God, that's pretty high strength. Now, what does that do to plastics?
This will do nothing to plastics. It'll clean plastics. Sometimes some of the Xylene used to remove the coating can harm plastic, but we've tested it, and what we had in our shop did not. We have had people say it left a spot on the plastic. So whether you're coating, we have coated trucks without wrapping all of the plastics, but we found that it's just easier to do if you just tape it all off, and then you can take it all off, and you don't have to worry about getting anything on the plastic. So that's what we're going to do today.
Yep, totally agree. And I think really we should just recommend just tape up your plastics. Just tape it up,
yeah.
Because realistically, you're having a lot of folks that I think are first time ever using a coating in any regard. You're going to get it everywhere, let's be honest. Especially with, I would say, how thick this product goes on. It's another thing we'll get into, but it's not as, I would say, simple as applying a ceramic coating, because you can kind of go back and get those tiny edges, and it doesn't go on quite as thin, I would say. So yeah.
Although we are finding the thinner that you put it on, you get to get one good coat, but if you can get that balance, it actually goes on so much nicer. And then if it's too thin, it rainbows once it dries, and then you just go back over it and fix it. So having that heavier coat, that's where you're gonna get drips, that's where you're gonna get runs. That's where people are really struggling. They're just putting it on too thick.
Just globbing it on there.
And me, myself, I always joke, I am not a fine finish person. So for me, it took some real practice of getting it on right. So you want to start on the smaller panels. You want to test it. We've had users starting to test on their outdoor kitchens. And really perfecting their technique there.
That's probably a smart way to do it.
Before they move on to their truck. So But yeah, so definitely we're going to tape off, and the coating itself, it's important to note, will actually melt the soft plastics around the windows. So you have to tape
the soft
off.
rubber up here.
The soft rubber up
So
there.
one thing I'll tell you with these, anytime you put tape on them, they don't stick.
Okay.
So
we'll figure that out.
Yep. So we need to figure that out because a lot of viewers, so I had Alyssa actually coat our Tesla Cybertruck.
I saw.
And she was getting it all over everywhere. And I think that's a realistic expectation
DIY
of newbies. I'm mostly going to have you do a lot of this because I want to get a good coating on this and I want to see how it's going to last.
So I'll let you prep, I'll coat.
We'll get you prepping. She said she hates the prep on these stuff. Cool. So I think the first place we need to start is with prep, of course. So my recommendation that I want you to see on the actual Cybertruck is using the Barkeeper's Friend that is actually the soft cleanser. And I heard you talk about on the video that we did that you actually got the recommendation for Barkeeper's Friend from me.
From you.
Yeah.
That was all. I totally give you credit for that. We watched your videos. We tried lots of different things on a panel of stainless steel before we actually got a Cybertruck, on hand. And it really does work the best.
But it's the wrong one, in my opinion. So we're going to test them side by side because I showed that in the first video. I want you to see it in person and maybe kind of give your impression of, I don't really like how that looks. My findings, Jordan was actually here when we shot that video. The truck looked unreal. Wouldn't you agree, Jordan? After we did the Barkeeper's Friend, the Windex, it was completely naked, but it was very even.
Especially after I drove it back from California hitting.
Yes. Oh my gosh, our truck has just been hammered, absolutely hammered. So I think we'll start with that first. Let's walk around the truck here first and kind of get an impression of how it looks. From the Cybertrucks you've worked on, anything that's standing out to you? Anything odd?
This is one of the cleaner Cybertrucks that I have seen. Good job, Chris. This doesn't have the little micro not abrasions, but corrosion, right?
Yep.
I don't see any rail
fallout. Yeah, I don't see any of that here.
I don't see any of it. You said the banding was worse on this store for
so back here you can really start to see the banding in here.
Yeah.
So a viewer actually reached out to me and said he believes this is from them welding the inner door panel and it actually discolors the metal.
I think that makes sense.
Which I think is fascinating because the Barkeeper's Friend completely takes this out, and then like the DIY detail coating that I use brings it back.
So I'm interested. So I have not used your Barkeeper's, right? So if that takes it out, I think that ProtectaClear, you won't see it. I think that the trucks that we've done, you won't see it. I think this is incredibly lucky. What I don't see on this truck are the telltale fingerprints.
I cannot figure out where those are coming from.
I think they come from the factory because we had a Cybertruck owner here and he said, look at where they are. Somebody's grabbing the door and putting it on the hinge. And I watched it think they're wearing gloves in the factory, but there's something on those gloves. Because at first, the first one I saw, it was like, it's your kids. It's not kids.
That's exactly what Kyle said. The first time it was here when I was washing it, he goes, how many little kids were in this thing? I'm like, what are you talking about? And there's just like,
right there.
Large man-sized fingers right here.
So I think that they're factory issues.
I do too.
That we have to try to level out. But this one looks great compared to so many that I've seen.
He's done the Barkeepers on a few of the panels here.
A few of, okay.
So I still want to do the full thing because I want to get it perfectly clean. Now, again, I still want to go back and forth of testing your products that's actually shipped with it. Now, if folks are wanting to use my method instead, can you just buy ProtectaClear or do you have to buy the whole kit?
You can just buy ProtectaClear.
Okay, wonderful.
The reason we have the kit, and people complain, I think you even are like, these microfibers are just from Costco. And it's like,
which they are good. I need to say that. For Cybertruck, they're really good.
But I think that they are good, and we try to provide in the kit everything somebody needs to take care of their Cybertruck.
Yep.
Ship that all to our door, because otherwise you're going to Costco, you're going to Home Depot, you're going to find the applicators. So a lot of people who have just bought ProtectaClear, they're not getting the applicators. So those are specialty applicators. Those aren't what we normally send with the ProtectaClear. So they're not getting that right applicator. So that's kind of the part of the kit. We're trying to provide everything they need, the correct things they need to have a really great outcome. But somebody can absolutely just buy ProtectaClear if that's what they want to do.
Cool.
And
I
really,
think that'll be cool.
And even for prep, however you want to prep the truck.
Right.
As long as you get any films or any contaminants off the truck before with the ISO or with the denatured alcohol, you're getting everything off, you're sucking out any moisture that's left. Like you said, that DIY panel prep, it has surfactants that are left on the thing. You can't have that.
Which typically in the detailing world, you kind of want to have something, it's either you want it completely naked or you want the coating to have something to bond to.
Gotcha.
So I think that may be where they're going for there.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily understand all of the chemistry. I'm slowly learning, even after 10 years. Like coatings have evolved, even ceramic coatings, your coatings, everything evolves every year. And I'm still just like, we have a company, one of the guys may actually be coming today to talk a little bit more about the backing of chemistry and stuff and play with Cybertruck a little bit. But it's not just easy. It's very complicated when you start applying something to a surface. And one of the big things with Cybertruck, they're all different. They're all coming from Austin.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, our Cybertruck, after Jordan just completely destroyed it, it was filled with the rust marks, which is industrial fallout on here. I wish we had some on this, unfortunately, so we could test it back and forth, but completely fine. So I think this panel back here, Jackie, if we can squeeze through here, this is the only panel he hasn't done, and you can really see this is what a normal Cybertruck looks like without any sort of barkeeper's friend, Windex. This thing has been completely undone. So what I think we should do is maybe do half of it the way you would prep it, and then I'm going to do half of it the way I would prep it. We can compare and contrast, and maybe I'm going to love how yours looks better than mine. I don't know. Let's just kind of figure that out.
I would say, I think a lot of people like the finish that the Barkeeper's cream gives.
The soft cleanser.
The soft cleanser. Thank you. I don't know what it's called. I think that it's so much work that people are like, oh, my shoulder's falling off from cleaning it this way. And even the Tesla dealerships are saying they're spending 3-4 hours cleaning before it goes out with that. I think the Barkeeper's more is a quicker, if you don't have those corrosion spots, I just think it's a quicker way to go. I just think it's an easier way to go. I
just realistically think, I mean, Chris, how old is this truck? A month? So this is a month.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, because I know customers, they get their new car.
Yeah.
I've had my Cybertruck on order for 4 years. They want to go drive it. They don't want to drive it back from the dealership, spend an entire day putting ProtectaClear or another ceramic coating on. They just want to go drive it. So I realistically think this is the expectation that we should understand that 99% of the trucks are going to look like. There's some anomalies there. I literally have people pick up their car, drop it off here to get, paint correction, polish, coatings, all of that fun stuff. So let's try this panel, and yeah, I'm anxious to see if we can see a huge difference. If maybe you like this better, maybe.
Doubt it.
Let's see.
But we'll see.
So we are now at the point where we're going to get into application. Before application of the coating is preparation. Would you say this is one of the most important steps? Because I definitely would.
100%.
Wonderful.
And it's not only the most important, it's also going to take you the most time. So the time-consuming part is the prep, not the application. And I know we've been talking off camera about whether to wash this or not. So basically, you're going to want to wash the truck, get any bugs, bird poop. You said I could say the word, but I didn't. Anything that's rough off of this. But if you wash it before you're getting ready to apply, you have to make sure that there's no water in any of the seams that's going to drip on the coating after you apply the coating or underneath the coating, because that will ruin the coating as well. So it's really important for it to be dry. If it's like this, where it's already like everything looks pretty good, it just needs to actually be buffed up, cleaned up, that's where you're just going to move on to the Barkeepers and Windex and start from there. So
all that I've done with this truck, just so you know, I have not full washed this. I mean, there's dust all over the tonneau. We don't have a ton of massive time today. All I did on this was just quickly hit it with some waterless wash just to get 99% of the stuff off. So if you're going to do this, you can definitely wash it, but it's got to be 100% dry. Because I'll tell you, from washing these, especially back here, this light, it's just like, I mean, you can sit there. I have a blow car dryer back here that's heated, filtered, everything. You stick it in there and it's just like, you can stay in here for 5 minutes and there's still water coming out. So I think that's an important step you want to make sure. So we're going to skip most of that. Now, if you were to wash it, you recommend using this product here, right? Your Easy Prep?
It's one of the things that we include with the kit. So it's a wash that you can use with the kit to get the truck clean in the first step. Again, it's also a neutralizer, so you want to save some of it.
For the neutralizing from the first. So you would essentially, if you're going to do this, you're going to dilute
It's an ounce per gallon of water. So if you have a 5-gallon bucket, you just pour a couple ounces in, fill it with water. It doesn't need to be exact.
So it was about half that I used when I did the first application. So essentially you're going to take half of this, put it in a 5-gallon bucket. Again, this is if your truck is filthy, you need to get dirt, bird poop, anything, bugs especially. That's one of the biggest things. You're going to use half of this, save the other half, and then, yeah, let's continue there. So after you've done this, essentially we've already done that. We've washed the truck, all good to go there. Where is our next step here?
So I would say if you don't have the really tough corrosion spots, those rail dusts, those things, because I think you have to work harder with this to get them off. And I think we agree on that.
Totally agree.
So
because this has no abrasive. So this is the more. So this is for, it says mineral deposits, oily residues, fingerprints, rust stains. So it will do a little bit in everyday grime. My impression from using that, it did absolutely nothing. But I want to see how you do this, and then I want to compare to what I would maybe recommend, and then I want to see, do you like my recommendations or not? And please feel free to be like, I really don't like that, I hate that, and that's totally okay. We're still learning about this truck. There's so much to learn here. So go ahead, maybe I'm going to have you do the driver's side, I'll do this side here.
Alrighty. So basically, I told you I'm not really a car person. Oh, I wasn't supposed to say that. But basically, I have been told this does have a little corrosion spot.
Does it?
Yep, just right there.
Jordan, I don't know if you can see that there. So that little spot.
Yep.
Cool. So I think all Cybertrucks are going to have a little. So again, this truck is a month old, and this panel back here, Chris has not done barkeepers on. He hasn't done anything, just kind of hosed it off, washed it, and that's how it looks. So what I'm noticing here is I don't see a ton of color coming out of it, which the other barkeepers, you still do have.
You have some.
Yep.
And you're going to have more. The more you work it, you are going to have some more.
Okay.
But definitely not as much. You obviously get these streaks, which is okay because they're going to go away with the Windex.
So, and you would recommend not spraying that directly on the panel. You would spray it into a rag.
I was told you spray things into rags and you don't apply things directly.
Good for you. I love it. I also
can learn, I promise.
One thing that I like that you're doing here, and this is my largest pet peeve with any sort of detailing, is when people take a towel like this, and this is how they try and clean it. Because what happens here, as you can see, like literally in your fingertips, that causes streaks. And this, people clean glass and things like this, and it's like, that's why your glass isn't getting clean. So take these, fold it into quarters. You now have 8 sides of a towel.
Exactly. That is something we teach. We literally have to teach professionals those things.
Absolutely. I mean, I watch professional detailers do this all the time. I'm like, guys, what are we doing here?
So, and you just waste so many more towels that way. I'm all about efficiency and saving. So we're going to, like you said, you have 8 surfaces here. And there is one little spot there that I can't get.
Okay.
So I'm going to...
Oh, this little...
Yep. I'm going to finish that off, and we'll see if you can get that off with the other one.
Oh, it'll come right off.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of these pans. So also, we aren't using random cookie sheets we found in the shop, our Coleton.
No, you should be using this. And these actually come in the kit now.
They do not. We have thought about adding them.
You need to.
We you know what? We took suggestions from the Bearded Tesla guy to make changes to the kit. I will take your suggestion.
So again, remember we were talking about earlier, you don't want to have to have people.
Yep.
That needs to be in the kit.
Yeah. So alternatively, these work very well. These are baking disposable loaf pans, and they work very well too. These are actually, these flex a little bit more. So depending on what kind of applicator you're using, they work for lots of different things. So I'm actually, these are solvent rated. So I'm actually going to save those for the coating.
And you don't want to use anything plastic because this coating, once you dump it into here, will eat it away.
So that is a solvent rated plastic. So that can be used. But yes, you don't want to use any random plastic thing. So I'm going to put this on.
And again, these are the same towels that you would have in your kit here. These are the same Costco ones. I love these for Cybertruck. I use them all the time for detailing because I'm a single-use towel guy. I know that may sound crazy. I get a ton of criticism for it. Kyle was here, Jordan, I think yesterday. We were cleaning his Range Rover steering wheel, and he's like, you go through so many towels. And then I had him clean his steering wheel. It turned black, and he's like, I understand why you don't wash those now. It's disgusting. Some of the stuff is just nasty.
So because we're going to use this, we are also going to use the Easy Prep to neutralize it.
Okay.
And so I put some stainless steel rust remover here, Easy Prep there, although I do need a bit of water for that Easy Prep.
Let me grab you some water.
So that I'm not going to use the same towel I use for barkeepers.
Right.
I actually set the barkeepers on the towel so I know which one I used for which. And you're going to take one of these microfibers, dip it into here. And this is actually, let me pour some water in there because this is actually a pretty quick process.
Okay. So that was one thing I was confused on the first time is that a good on water?
Yeah.
Is it had like a lot of dwell time. You also said use a brush. Has that nomenclature left?
You know what? That was unfortunately left from not a Cybertruck. That was instructions for if you're trying to clean some really heavily oxidized or heavily corroded stainless or brass or anything.
Okay.
So what we found with this is this makes a good bit of difference very quickly.
Okay.
We had one detailer who tried the barkeepers thing. They were doing it as a coating. They had square right here, like 1 foot squares across this whole thing. It was patchy. It was awful.
Wow.
They brought it into a shop that we were training to do this. And we had to corrected it for them with the stainless steel.
Cool. I'm curious to see how this looks because I really struggled with this product, to be honest. So I applied it. I did notice that it really made, it did take out a lot of the color. Now, my concern with using this is wouldn't you want to use it on the whole truck so it's all even?
At least the whole panel, because I don't think it changed, just like the barkeepers, right? It doesn't change it enough, and this spot's still not coming out.
Okay.
It doesn't change it enough.
So, and that was my finding with it, to be totally honest with you, the first time, is the amount of, they're not rust spots, it's industrial fallout.
Right.
We'll continue to call it that so we don't get all the fun comments. I didn't find that it actually removed that using your product there. That was just my finding, and Barkeeper's Friend, 2 seconds and it's gone.
So I got what has been the worst truck that I've seen come from Tesla. See that difference?
Yep, big difference.
Big difference. I can't get that spot out though, so I really want to know if you can get that spot out.
Yeah, it'll come out in 2 seconds.
We had a truck that had those fallout spots over the entire thing.
Yep.
I mean, it was awful. And we actually didn't prep it and see now this is where we're going to get it.
See, so this is what I'm saying. You can't necessarily use this on one small spot because it's going to change the finish a little bit.
It will. And that's where we send this for like that banding, any real miscolorations.
Sure.
Like you said, everything that comes, it's so modeled. So this really gets it very even.
Yep.
You get a really nice even finish with it.
Yeah, so this little industrial fallout spot there still remains.
Still remains. So now I want to see if you can get it up. Because now you're right. I kind of am having to do my whole section here.
Exactly. Because
this.
what's going to happen here once this dries, it's the half of the panel is going to look completely different. So you have 2 towels in your hand there. Talk to me about what you're doing here.
So stainless steel rust remover.
Okay.
Easy prep and water. It is a neutralizing solution because it is an acid. So when you use an acid, you have to neutralize it or it's going to keep changing the metal.
Yep.
So even like that.
Yeah, I can still see it in there.
So we're just going to keep going back over it until it's all even.
So I'm going to tell you already, I would already be done with this panel using the other Barkeepers.
Well, let's go then. Start over there.
I want to do it. I want to see this dry, and then I want to do my side. And I genuinely hope maybe we can kind of come together and figure out maybe a slightly better solution on this. But I do like how this looks so far. I can see how much brighter silver that's coming out.
Like I said, if you do, like we said, we did the whole truck in this and it was gorgeous.
Right.
Now,
See, I'm noticing here, Jordan, can you pick that up on camera? Like you started here and it's like, this looks great. I do like that. That looks really, really nice.
So if I kept dipping, if I dipped again, did it again, dipped again, did it again.
Okay.
I was trying to get that spot out though. You're right. And for a spot, you're going to have a very much different. But so that's neutralized. So it's not going to keep changing it at this point.
Okay.
So I'd say do your side, and if it's your side's going to look completely different than this anyways. So
we'll probably end up doing the Barkeepers on one. But I just want to put them 50-50 because just in my eyes, the amount of steps and the amount of time I saw you work on that panel seems a little long to me. And I know the prep, like you said, it is a big part of it. Okay. And honestly, doing the Barkeepers, your shoulder by the end of the day, you're like, oh my God, I'm done with this. It's a lot. So I actually, when Jordan was here and we filmed this, I use a polisher on it. Now, you can do that. Be careful with it if you are going to do that. If you want to watch that video, I'll leave it in the link in the description below. be mindful. You don't want to hammer these things. We just saw, actually, I don't know if you saw that,
The chrome finish
first
ones,
chrome Cybertruck,
yeah.
super cool. I freaking
I
love
want to know
it.
how long, and I didn't ask on the picture, but I want to know how long that actually took for them to get that.
I heard a week.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it looked like a ton of work.
Yeah, but I mean, that, I think one of our employees said you're going to have people getting burns on the street from the reflection.
Yeah,
or blinding
absolutely.
other drivers.
So this is Barkeeper's soft cleanser. So this is what I would call a compound. It has abrasives in it. It also has acid in it. Now, a lot of people are going, I see this all over the forums right now. Don't use acid on your trucks. Don't use Windex and ammonia. I've talked to multiple people. Do you have any sort of feelings on either of that?
Well, the fact is you're using an acid for a short amount of time. You are neutralizing it. And this is, again, people argue with the science of it, but there's ammonia in the Windex, which is neutralizing the acid. But we did a pH test because our coatings don't do well with acids. And so we did a pH test to make sure that it was neutralized before we applied the coating.
And Windex took it, and no problem.
It takes, so we tried it with the Barkeepers and that Barkeepers. Assuming the acid content is similar in the two, I think just the difference is it's more of a compound, like you said, in the micro abrasives in there. I think that's the main difference between the two. But it neutralized it enough.
Okay.
So.
Cool. Well, I'm gonna start here. So if I were doing this, I would tape the light up here. Just to make sure you're not getting this compound abrasive on here. I'm just going to be super careful here because I've done this quite a few times. So what I want you to see here just after literally 2 seconds is all of that stuff that starts coming off immediately. Now you can do this the entire truck at once and then come back and do it. I like to do it panel by panel. And importantly, if you have a foundation series Cybertruck, it is totally fine to go over this etching. I know people have seen this. I've done this 4 times on camera now.
Yeah.
So this is nothing new, but I just want to see how much quicker this potentially goes and then the difference that it looks here as I'm smearing it everywhere on the bottom there. So this line here, as I'm seeing like down here, big difference. And then the more I work this,
It'll even it out.
the more that goes away. So that was where you use that. So let's try this spot here. Is this a chip?
That's what I was thinking.
It could be a chip there.
Yeah.
I want to get a little bit more aggressive on that quickly.
Now, do you have to worry about dwell time on this Barkeepers? No.
You can
Okay.
kind of let it go. I like to do it panel by panel, but look at all that's coming off there. So pulling a lot of what I would say tarnish.
Yep, that's exactly the right word. That's what when people say, stainless steel doesn't rust. Well, it tarnishes, it tea stains, it corrodes.
Tea stain is a word that I've never heard until I read your stuff, and then I did some more research on it. I'm like, that's exactly what this is doing.
Yeah. Like you said, we've been doing this quite a while.
So what is tea stain?
It's the changing of the color of the metal.
So that's when it goes kind of that orange color.
Orangey brownish color, yeah. Very common.
Let's go to the Windex.
So I hear that is blasphemy, by the way.
Yeah, everybody's freaking out right now.
I think that the concern with the Windex, with ammonia, is that it, and you can speak to this more than I can, actually damages window tinting? Is that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's why everybody's like, why are you using ammonia on a car? It's because of window tint. It'll actually eat it away.
So you just have to be really careful around the windows if they are tinted.
So I like to go on this basically twice. You go through a ton of Windex on this step. So that panel I would call done.
Yeah, that looks great.
So what are your feelings on between this? Because my personal opinion, this looks much more cohesive and even.
Yeah.
This looks very splotchy.
Right, and I wasn't doing, I was trying to show that one, but you're right. This looks very clean, very clear, and it didn't look as hard as you made it look before.
It's so easy.
You've gotten better at your technique.
I'm very quick at it now.
Yeah.
And Chris, I know you can speak to this. You did part of your Cybertruck doing this, and you said it was hard. Yeah.
Section by section.
Section by section. So that's what I would say. Yes, it's a lot of elbow work.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of used to this now. It's like just pumping up, especially me pumping up one right arm. It's like I'm pretty strong at this now. It's a lot of work, but Chris asked me earlier, do you need to do this with a machine polisher? No, you can do this by hand, spend some time. So I would say, like, hey, you're going to do this, maybe the day before, do the full Barkeepers solution, spend your time doing that, let it sit overnight, come coat it the next day. So my personal opinion, I want your personal opinion, would you consider adapting to just using the Barkeeper soft cleanser, or would you still recommend going through using your products?
You know, surprisingly enough, we don't have any association with Barkeepers.
Yep.
So we're totally fine adjusting if that's what people want to use. Like I said, I thought that the spray was easier, but you're right, you don't get the same evenness and finish.
This to me, it looks bright silver.
Yeah.
It just looks very cohesive. This to me, I mean, this panel, let me wipe this down so it's a little bit more fair here, because you know. So this area right here, this actually looks reasonably even, but I would say this is a lot quicker. You're skipping a couple steps there. This is already neutralized. So then right after this, you spray down your IPA, it's time to coat.
Yep. So yeah, no, we'll definitely take that into consideration.
I like that. I think it's a better solution. And I'm not saying these products are bad, because they definitely worked. And this worked a lot better than when I tested it. You used quite a bit more, really worked it in. I was kind of like, just quickly work it in, and it made these kind of silvery streaks all over it, because it had a lot of this, you know, more tea staining. But this area you did, that other Barkeepers does nothing. Really, I see a lot of people grabbing this and they think it's the same. Completely different products.
Very different because of the micro abrasives.
Yep, exactly. Right. So that is one concern. And I'm actually going to have Ivan from DIY Detail come on, and probably a chemist or two. I want to talk to him because he is completely against this.
Oh,
he doesn't like the idea of abrasive. The reason being, eventually, if you keep doing this every week, you could turn it into a mirror.
Absolutely. And that was our concern with the micro abrasives, was just that. That you're going to change the finish. Whereas we were trying to clean up the finish so that you can keep that look.
So I think there's two different ways, because some folks like patina. They want that kind of more, I'm just going to call it warm tones now, versus this is very cool. You can go either way. You can coat it whichever way you see fit. So I think this is cool. We were able to test that. If you kind of like more of this look, my just professional detailing opinion, it doesn't look as even. So I do want to show you on that door banding. Maybe we can quickly film that off camera, or we can do it on camera. This is going to be a long video. I don't know. This is going to be 3 hours long. Who knows? But let's try it on that. And then I want to do the whole truck. Or maybe we'll start on a section and then I can do the rest while that's curing. We'll get it figured out. So this front panel here, Jackie wanted to get coated right away because Chris actually lives, you know, a couple 100 miles away from here. He's got a 2-hour drive. So we want to let this cure before, you know, it goes out on the open road for bugs and things like that. You don't want to get it stained. So what I've done here, again, just quickly done the Barkeeper's Friend solution. Now, if you're watching this kind of in order, I do want to make a note. We haven't done the side of the truck. We will later in the video. We'll probably do that on a time lapse. Now, when you do Barkeepers, I want you to put tape on it, because if you get it on here and it sits, it can cause some white marks. You saw me actually drip it on the back. It's okay if it gets on there. I just don't want you abrading it. So I would recommend you tape it, spray it down with your Windex. Now, importantly, my recommendation would be to remove the tape, let everything dry, do your isopropyl alcohol, then retape it for the actual ProtectaClear coating. Because the rationale behind that, your isopropyl alcohol is still wet, and it can also kind of start eating away that adhesive layer on the tape. So it can actually, you tape something up, you get a little layer of isopropyl alcohol or something under there, and it starts to lift, and then you're gonna get ProtectaClear under there. Then you're in this sticky, messy situation. So Barkeeper's Windex on here, and then Jackie's gonna come through with her isopropyl alcohol. Now I asked her, why do you not use a sprayer on this?
Because it's easier just to pour it on a rag and wipe it on, I think.
So my recommendation would be, if you have sprayers, use that. Maybe that's something you can have in there. That's just a traditional detailing sense. We don't necessarily pour things on there. That's just my preference. So you can definitely do it this way. I would say probably use a sprayer. It's a little more accurate, and is this how much it comes with in the kit? 16 ounces?
And
that's completely enough?
That's more than enough to do the car.
All right, go ahead and do that. So this is very important for a couple of reasons. Do you want to tell the viewers why?
Yeah, so what the alcohol, whether you're using this isopropyl or whether you're using a denatured, it gets any of this. You can still see there's little brown streaks from what we had done before, or how Coleton had prepped it.
Yep.
And so it's going to get this really perfectly even finish as it flashes off. But really what it does is it's going to draw out any moisture that's in the metal that might have been here from your prep steps. And it's going to make sure that it's completely clean and completely dry before we move on to the coating.
And this is traditional with ceramic coatings as well. You have to make sure your panel is prepped properly. You don't want to, essentially, like the way I'm thinking about it from a detailer's perspective on normal cars that I work with, you polish paint, you have all this oily residue. You want to make sure all that's off because a coating needs something to bond to. So it's not a ceramic coating, but it's the same principle and concepts of it needs to be 100% clean, free of any oils, residue, fingerprints, importantly. I would say anytime you're working with Cybertruck, just throw gloves on the whole time.
Yes, absolutely. Because honestly, if you put your fingerprints, if you're, let's say I'm not careful with what I'm doing, right? And I hold here to do this and I don't have gloves on, you're going to have huge fingerprints. And the oil from your fingerprints are going back into the metal. So that's why gloves are really handy. And we provide gloves in the kit as well.
Great.
There's one spot you missed down here though. So right there. I think that actually might be a rock chip.
Yeah, so I can hit that quickly again.
Yeah. So let's do that and then we'll get ready to coat.
So I'll just hit this spot. Like if you say you get to this step and you miss something like this could even be, I don't know, it almost looks like a scratch. I'll definitely try and get that out, but you can come back, hit that with Barkeepers, Windex.
Yep.
Then again, make sure you use the IPA, but that's pretty simple. I would just make sure you do, I wouldn't do this in steps, like do Barkeepers here, Windex here, IPA, coat it, and then start and do the same thing here.
No.
Do the whole truck with Barkeepers first. Do the whole truck. Is that your recommendation with the IPA?
Well, with the Barkeepers that you're suggesting, is there a time frame that you can't have it on there for so long? Will it continue? Because the acid will continue to change the metal. So if I start here.
I've done the entire side of the truck.
Yeah.
And then came back and it all looked completely even.
Yeah. And I usually recommend do a section, the front, do the A side, you know, whole, and not with ISO. No, when you're prepping. So Barkeeper Windex, Windex, and then you ISO the whole truck. And then you tape, and then you coat.
Yep, I agree with that. I completely agree. I think just maybe some folks watching this may go, oh, I do Barkeepers and Windex on this, I coat it, then I move to this section, do Barkeepers, Windex, coat it. Don't do that.
Don't do that.
Do the whole truck at once, and then the coating we'll get into in a little bit. But I'll get this spot fixed, then we're actually going to coat this.
We're going to coat this. Ready to go?
So we've got this all taped up here on the front, and I think that's one of the most important parts with this. So I noticed in the first, so you have 2 install videos. The first one was an earlier one, just starting to work with Cybertrucks, and then you did a second one. Now, a few things. In that video, I saw you not tape up anything. I know that was your first install, so you guys are now saying absolutely tape everything up.
We're saying tape because if you get coating on the surfaces, it's more of a pain to remove them. And the coating won't damage the surfaces, those hard plastics, but some of the chemicals you would use to remove it might lighten it.
So like the Xylene.
The Xylene, or the Acetone.
Okay.
So it's just easier and you're just safer protecting it all. And then you don't have to worry about if it drips.
Okay, cool. That sounds good. Now, one of my largest questions that we're going to get into here is your latest video, you install it 3 different ways. So I just quickly want to touch on that. So the first time I saw you basically do this panel here, you broke it up into 4 sections. And the first part you started was on the driver's side, kind of that angular. I noticed that it looked very even, and then you redunked it, and it seemed to get a lot more product. That's when it dripped onto the bumper here. So are you still recommending an area like this, that you're going to break it up into sections? Because then after that, you did this entire piece in one with your new applicators. And let's just show the viewers one more time what these applicators are that you have.
So these are microfiber. They're supposed to be lintless, but I'm going to show you how that they're not, and how to get the lint off.
They always lint,
They always lint, how to get as much lint off as possible.
Cool.
But they are supposed to be lint-free microfibers. They have a little pocket here, so when you're applying, it's very easy. And there's a sponge in here, a solvent.
That was one of my big questions. So this is the applicator that I traditionally use in detailing. Now, these are made by Auto Fiber, and these are as well, right? So these are kind of cool for ceramic coatings. Again, this is not a ceramic coating. This has essentially a hydrophobic layer under it because, you know, when I'm coating a normal vehicle, I'm using a 30 ml bottle. That's 1 ounces. You have to get it spread out over the entire car. You don't want that coating to get lodged in the foam. But it sounds like, talking with you guys off camera, you actually do want the foam to soak it up because it's going to apply more evenly. So this is probably not recommended.
Probably not, but I'm interested to try it, especially ones this size. And we originally started with these ones, and we still include one of these.
Okay.
Sometimes, and I think you were going to allude to the framing. Really for the doors and whatnot, that where you are trying to keep it off of one panel, or the frame that goes around the windows. This size works great, so I'm curious to try them both.
So that was our third one, right? The framing. So framing traditionally is you're going to kind of hit the edges here first. Now I would say that can work for you in a lot of instances here. The concern I have with that, or I want to see how it plays out, is because it seems like you kind of wipe it once and then you back off from it. So I'm curious to see how the framing works. I'd like to maybe on this do it the 3 different ways you showed, and then maybe come up with, hey, in this area I'd recommend doing the entire panel. In this panel, maybe you want to break it up, which it sounds like you don't.
Yeah, I think that was our first install on a Cybertruck back in February, and I was applying it, you're right, and this is the only one you really can't even do it on because there's a break kind of in the metal. But I would recommend at this point, we've done enough to the single swipe across the entire thing.
And this holds a lot more.
This holds a lot, and I know one of your other questions is why the heck would you wrap it in tinfoil in between coats? And I brought tinfoil because it holds so much that if you do your coat and if you see any rainbowing, it means the coating's too thin. Very easy to fix. You just simply unwrap this. There's usually enough coating left in this applicator that you can just wipe on a very quick single coat.
After it's dry.
After it's dry.
So that was one of my things. You're pulling your hair out, screaming at me through the camera in the first video is like, I kept trying to install it like a ceramic coating. Again, detailers are struggling with this because our nature is, I missed a little spot. I need to go back and hit it. And you can kind of work these coatings. It's, you know, between 30 seconds and a minute. Some you can work a little longer. The coatings I use here at the shop are 5 seconds. They have a flash that quick. Like they are rapid. So you apply it and you have to make sure it's even, but very consistent. So the other big thing I had, blew my mind, we're pouring this, and you're like, why are you using a cookie sheet? I mean, genuinely, I was so deep into this. I shot the video twice. My mistake, I should have went and got one of these. Now, again, my recommendation is these need to be provided in the kit so people don't have to go run and get these, but these are solvent safe. So need to make sure you're using something like this. It sounds like you can use a glass bowl or something similar.
Or a metal tin. Like we said, the loaf pans actually work pretty well as well. And those you can throw, I mean, these you throw away.
Yeah, right? And these are super cheap.
Something you can throw away.
I definitely like these to be in the kit. So people have them. They're not using the wrong thing, like a cookie sheet or something like I was using. So how much coating do you actually want to put in here? Do you want to fill this? Do you just want to fill the basin with it?
You want to fill the basin. You want to probably use about 4 ounces. Okay. So I'll pour it in and we're going to go. So our coatings, I didn't even realize that ceramics had such a short
it
flash
depends.
time.
Every single one is different. So that's what I was saying. It's like these coatings, even the DIY details. So I know you alluded to that, you know, the first time I applied it, I had to take it back off because I was waiting for it to rainbow, which in coating world, in ceramic coating world, waiting for coatings to rainbow is a good thing because that means I'm ready to come off now. Yeah. In this, it's, you applied it way too thin. So again, my mind is swirling around going, what do I do in this situation? And I just keep wiping and you're like, yeah. So, okay.
And really, and you're not going to see the rainbowing until it starts to dry. So you can see I just poured into that bottom little basin. So, there's so much more work time. So first of all, it's better to put it on thin than thick. When you put it on too thick, you get drips and runs.
So you'd prefer just baseline. If you're going to install this, do a lighter layer and kind of stop. Even if you're getting rainbows, you'd prefer to have that than just saturating the surface, having a ton of drips.
The rainbowing is much easier to fix than the drips and runs.
Great point there. So Jordan, I'm going to have you come in here because this is where I immediately had a lot of confusion of, okay, so we're dunking this, are we dipping it?
We're dipping it. We're going to call it dipping.
Okay, great.
Okay, so, and you want to get the whole thing saturated. So you can see you don't want any dry spots on that applicator, right? But then we're going to kind of squeeze out any excess here. So you don't have dry spots, but you can see it's not dripping wet. And I soaked up a lot of that
you
coating,
soaked up a ton of that.
right?
There's probably at least,
Actually.
I would say, an ounce in there in the applicator.
Oh, at least, yeah.
Yeah, which is hilarious because that's literally what I coat the entire car with.
Right, and ours aren't $90 an ounce, right?
Sure.
It's $90 for a quart. So it's okay that it's all in there. And so we're going to take this, and if it goes on a little heavy, your first run is typically heavier. So you want to start at the top of the panel.
Work your way down.
And work your way down.
Okay.
So very light pressure. You can see, try to getting, again, that framing. And we're going to walk straight across, and this is a little thick on this first one, but that's okay. And you can go, if you miss, you just kind of
So you can, there is a little bit of workability in it.
Absolutely, there's workability in it. And you can go back over this, but you're basically just going to kind of walk along the truck. And here you can see it's really thick on this edge.
Yeah, super thick.
And you want to try to avoid using this sewn edge.
Okay.
So you're going to pull down. There's a lot of workability in here.
Okay.
Back across.
So I think that was part of my confusion, and I think a lot of folks are struggling with this as well, is understanding how much workability and then when you need to pull back and stop.
And it depends on your, and then see we got some lint, so we're going to get that out. Kind of also depends on your environmental conditions. So we talk a lot about this in the video.
Yep.
And it's on the instructions, and people still don't read it. But the warmer it is, the faster the coating is going to dry. The cooler it is, the slower it's going to dry.
Now over here, I have a few questions, and I'm seeing you continue to work this. And that was my understanding after watching your video, that I kept trying to do it, but then you shouldn't really do that. Yeah, I see like a little piece of lint or something right there. So that's one of my, I guess, concerns with this product that I just want to voice. I think a lot of people are going to do this outside. Cybertrucks are very large.
Yep. Sorry.
No, I'm watching you do this and just.
So I can tell you that Stacy, who's our office manager, he is yelling at me from afar as well. And,
Okay, why?
just because I keep sticking my fingers in it.
Okay, so, and you should not do that?
No, you can leave it. You want to get in. The problem is I've got some hairs here. If the hairs settle in, they're going to settle in.
Okay.
Bugs and whatnot. So bugs are absolutely attracted to the solvent.
Well.
Oh gosh, I dripped on the side over here.
So can I just wipe this part off right now with
just wipe it with.
Jordan, come around here. So I think this is one of those things. Now this panel, again, we haven't worked with, so we just got some drips here. We've also got this here. So that's just, from my perspective, a little bit of my concern with this is I think I don't want to say sloppy because I think that could be the wrong word, but I do kind of feel that in a sense that does concern me with it. So yeah, I don't know. I'm just trying to kind of grasp my head around this a little bit. But so this area here we've wiped off. It's still very smooth, but we'll have to get that off later.
We'll get that off, yeah, as you're prepping, right?
Yep.
And so
So immediately
I'm gonna wrap this immediately.
Okay.
And this is the thing. This is when you're going to walk away. You're
And
gonna
just
walk
stop.
away. You're gonna stop. As long as you've got any drips or runs that may have happened up here, anything that's gone, any mist spots at this point, you just leave them. Here's already, they're going to be thin, right? There's
Yep, so I
rainbowing
can
at the
see
bottom.
this whole edge here.
That is okay.
Okay.
We can fix that on a second pass and it'll level out beautifully.
So, and your recommendation, I noticed you talked about this in the video, start with these two panels because they're kind of facing you. You can really see them. You can kind of get your technique down because there is realistically a lot of technique in this. It's not just slap this stuff on. You really got to kind of play with it. But yeah, this rainbowing's interesting. So right now, don't touch it, right?
Don't touch it. No.
Okay. So my instinct is, I got to fix this.
No.
Got to fix it.
You don't.
Great.
You don't. You're going to walk away. And this is when you're going to, once you get your technique down, you can move on to your next panels. But I would say here, I would do this panel. I would do maybe this panel. And then you walk away, come back, look at what you've done, because it does self-level as it dries. I know we were talking about self-leveling coating.
So self-leveling, let's explain what that is. Yep.
You can see these streaks here now. Those will be gone.
Okay.
And the rainbowing will be there, and we're going to go back over it with that wrapped microfiber and or the
And
wrapped
you're not going to
applicator.
dunk that again.
Depending on
and come
how
back
much
over.
is in there, I think there's quite a bit in there still, so I think we're good to just go right over it again.
And what's just,
Yeah.
okay, so I have these rainbows here.
Yep.
How long do I want to wait until I unwrap this from the tin foil?
Well, until this is dry to the touch. I am notorious for sticking my fingers in wet coating. So walk away for at least 30 to 40 minutes.
Okay, great.
Go in, eat a meal, do whatever, tape up the rest of your truck. Do something so that you're not sitting here
Staring at
fretting about it.
So, and one question I had here. So I think you obviously don't want to install this in the sun.
Correct. Please don't. Yes.
Okay, so you need to have some sort of environment that you're either in shade. I still think a lot of people are going to do this outside, which is a little bit of concern. So this is going to remain kind of tacky, I would call it, for a little bit. So anything that falls on it is going to kind of get stuck in there.
Yeah.
Now, if that does happen, can you remove those? What's your recommendation there?
So any bugs that land in it, for the most part, you let it dry.
Really?
When you're walked away, you kind of pick them out. They'll come out. If there's a little spot, usually I use my fingernail, and then you go back over it with another coat, and it's good.
So that has to do with the leveling characteristics of this product.
And self-annealing, so it blends to itself.
So let's explain what that is, because I had to look it up too, because I understand self-healing. There's some ceramic coatings out there that I've tested that is, you apply it. Now, in traditional, yet again, normal ceramic coatings, you apply this, when it rainbows, it's ready to come off. You want to wipe that away, but this is completely different. So self-leveling, it's going to go on there. You don't wipe it. It's just going to level out, and I can already see it's looking very different from when you just applied it, especially up here. This is really starting to smooth out, and I'm noticing how much different the rainbows are kind of.
And you can tell I
starting
have
to
more
appear.
rainbows down here because I started up there, so
Yep.
it's thicker up there, and then it's thinner down here. So once I go over the whole thing again, I'll start down here and then touch up
And
in
then
there
work
if
your way
I
up.
need to touch up there, which I might not need to touch
Okay.
up there, and then I leave it again.
Okay, and then the self-annealing.
Yep.
What-
So the self-annealing means it'll blend to itself even years later. And so anything that you need to fix. So let's say we have some Walter hair in there that we just can't stand. So we take the coat, once it's dry to the touch, of course, we take a little bit of acetone, or Xylene really does work best. I realize you can't
So
get it in
that's
California.
one thing I'm concerned about. And you recommended, it said on the sheet, I looked at it, Xylene. I'm 9 o'clock at night when I was like, I got to get that panel off that I did in the first video. And I'm going, shit, I can't find this anywhere. So Colorado, we don't sell Xylene here. California, I know, does not. So
New York and Maryland.
okay, so quite a few states. So alternative, acetone.
Acetone.
Is there anything else you can use? I used a paint thinner that was a Xylene substitute.
Yes.
That's the right word for it.
So that will work. It takes a little bit more work. So the reason you want to use Xylene rather than acetone is Xylene has a slower flash point. You put on acetone and it's like gone.
Yep.
The paint thinner even more so.
Yeah, and it eats through gloves and all. It's
Yeah.
pretty nasty stuff. And that's one of my concerns is DIY folks using this, they're going to get it on their plastic trim. And that's where I'm getting a little concerned about, like, okay, so you are going to have mistakes realistically, especially your first time doing it. These are great panels to do it on. But when I was using it, it's like I'm pouring so much of the stuff on. I'm like, am I going to, ruin these plastics, have to replace those? So I would keep them off the plastics as much as you can for sure. So.
Yep, I would definitely try to keep them off the plastics. With not necessarily the coating, but the things you use to take off the coating. And the reason you have to use harsher chemicals is because once this cures, it's a very durable coating.
Yeah.
And so it takes more than, it could come off with a strong abrasive, but
Okay.
you don't want to take that
because then
strong
you're gonna
abrasive to a truck, because
once you get through that, you're gonna start harming the stainless.
Right.
Is this like
So-
somewhat? And this is just an offhand topic. Is this similar to like an epoxy? Like my floors here, is it? It's completely different.
Very different.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because this stuff's like pretty hard. I noticed like the acetone that I spilled on here, or the paint thinner, whatever I was using,
melted
started to melt it away.
It's because this is partially rubber. Epoxy is rubber. And so no, the coating is totally
different.
Yeah.
I was just curious. Yeah.
And same with if you accidentally spill coating on concrete. I mean, like a lot of coating, it'll start, or not concrete, I'm sorry, asphalt. Same thing. It'll start to kind of like melt that away too.
That's crazy. Jordan, I want you to come look at this and how much it's changed. Sorry about
No,
that.
that's okay.
It looks totally different now. Totally different. Now I have a fan up here, so there is air moving around here. Is that a negative? Would you rather it be kind of very still? Because I know folks working outside, it's going to be a little breezy, which traditionally in ceramic coating lines is not great because you're going to have one side flash quicker than the other side flashing, meaning the time you apply it and then remove it.
So I'm going to quote Ron White.
Okay.
It's not that the wind is blowing, it's what the wind is blowing.
Okay.
So you very much, it's what is coming down. So if you have a very dirty garage, don't turn on a fan.
Sure.
You know, but if you can do it in a garage, a clean garage, that's best, because you just have more protection from the elements. If you can do it outside, you still have to have protection from the elements because you don't want to do it in full sun. And you don't want pollen, like, and everything that's coming down
I'm just
right now,
thinking about,
right?
like, I live literally in a construction zone right now.
Oh, yeah.
It'd be like next to impossible to do it
So
because there's
you
just
don't
dust.
do it there. We had someone actually in the Bay Area of California who had a question because where he lives, there's so many bugs. He's like, it's just like gnat infested, lives by some like open land. He said, but he doesn't have a garage. So he went to a parking garage to do it because it's covered. It's somewhat, there was nobody on the floor that he's on. So, you know, you can try to find a solution, but in a garage is the best place to do it. The fan is actually providing airflow, which is going to help it dry faster so that we can move along, which is great.
Okay.
You just, again, it's what it's blowing around.
Okay. Yeah, this looks wild to me, and not in a bad way. I'm just saying because I'm noticing how different it's changing as it's drying. Like lots of rainbows up here, and then I notice areas like this.
Where
These
I
are
went back and tried to
looking
fix, right?
quite thick. And your ideal solution is a single layer on this. Am I correct?
You know, a single layer that's not too thick and not too thin. But if you have to do that, it is better to go thin and fix rainbows than it is to go thick and fix drips and runs.
Yep.
And the self-annealing, going back to the self-annealing part of it, if you find that you've missed a spot, the coating will blend to itself.
So like, let's just say we have an edge over here that you completely missed.
Yep.
You would want to let it dry, then go back over.
Then go right back over it. And how it works is, when I explain this to people, they seem to get it. So what it is a blend of polymer resins in a solvent. So the solvent melts the resins and it's all one mixture, the coating, right? When you put it on, the solvents evaporate, it leaves the resin on the surface. So when you apply more coating, you're applying more solvent, it melts that first and it all blends together to create one coat. And so that's really how you have to think of it. So you can fix anything with it. Even if later on, if you're getting rock chips and dings like that, you can go over it and it'll blend to itself. As long as that rock chip didn't hurt the metal, like a huge one.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Then it'll fix the coating, you can fix it later.
I'm shocked by it. And that's one of the things that I'm anxious to see with this is like testing it over time. I know Chris is going to be driving this quite a bit. Is like, what does it do to rock chips? Because our Cybertruck has rock chips all over it. I mean, I had you feel the hood of it and you're like, are you kidding me?
It's crazy. Yeah.
It literally, you wipe a towel over it and it's just like pulling all the microfibers out of it because it's these very jagged edges on it. So I think it's cool that it's going to help with that. Now, so I understand this is thicker than a traditional ceramic coating. So we have DIY detail on our truck. This is definitely going to be thicker. How thick is it?
So when you apply it like this is about 1 mil thick that you're putting it on.
1 mil?
1 mil wet.
Okay.
Is 3 to 4 microns dry. So it's very thin once that solvent is dissipated. It's a very, very thin coating. So it really, it feels thick. It feels thicker than what you're used to.
Yeah, and I think that was one of the things that like concerned me when I first applied it. Was like, oh my God, we're putting like literally almost paint. I understand it's not paint, but you're like applying a clear coat to it. So for example, 1 mil, I just want to, like, for the detailing nerds that watch this channel often, the typical traditional paint that I work with, so within that you have your base coat, your color coat, your clear coat. We typically measure that of a paint meter. We're looking about 4 to 5 mils on the average car. So it's about a fourth of that. So it's actually quite a bit of material going on there because ceramic coatings are ultra, ultra, ultra thin. So this is much more of like a protective barrier on it. And importantly for Cybertrucks, a fingerprint barrier. And I can't wait to test that. So just going to continue here. You probably want to do this section here.
And you always, I would always recommend doing the hood before you do the front because you don't want to lean into it.
Great.
And then do the front and then really stop, please, because we have had people go, well, it didn't look great, but I moved on and did the rest of the truck and now I have to strip the whole thing. And it's like, well, please get your technique down, see how you like it, see how the finish is before you do the whole truck, just especially as a DIYer.
Yep. So one thing I want to say that I'm really liking is up here where it definitely looks like you got a more natural, even coat than down here.
Yep.
The color.
Yep.
I like the color a lot. I really, really like that, because one of my issues that I have, I guess, with the DIY detail is it brings back some of that tea staining look. I call it that warmth that you get out of it. And my preference is the bright, shiny stainless steel silver. It just looks so crystal clean. So I can't wait to, I guess, we're gonna have to recoat the entire hood here.
You know, I can see rainbowing till about here.
Yeah, I can still see some coming up
so
here.
Yeah, we'll do one more coat on the whole thing. Once this is dry though, because this right here,
I can tell this is still very wet.
It's still very wet, and there's still a little bit of lint that we're gonna get out. But once this is dry.
And you can get that out.
You can get that. The thing about it being self-leveling and I'm gonna show you how to get this out.
Sweet.
Before we do the next one, and then we're gonna go over one more thing. It'll all be beautiful.
Cool. So you wanna get this one done now?
Sure thing.
So would you maybe recommend, especially with the poor Cybertruck build quality that we have, like this panel sticking here, would you recommend we pop this open and apply it there?
Quite honestly, I recommend you pop it open because I don't want to squat and do it.
Great. So, and that's a good thing.
But make sure that this is dry enough, right? So this should be okay.
Yeah, because you don't want to lift it up and now it starts dripping the other way. Sure.
Yes.
Sure. Totally understand. So am I okay to open this now?
Yeah, you're okay. I'm going to grab a new pair of gloves.
Yep.
And
Jordan, what do you think of this? I mean, you didn't see it before, I guess. This is probably too high up here.
I mean, it looks nice. It's subtle. I think some people are fearful of putting something on that like completely changes how the truck even looks, even if it's protective. But
and that was a question I had for Jackie that we'll kind of get into after we see this is, I mean, you guys do say that it doesn't change the finish. I would argue it does a little, but not in a bad way necessarily. To me, kind of what I'm thinking it more looks like is somewhat like paint protection film, how it does take away a little bit of the texture of the stainless steel finish. So that could be a pro, that could be a con. Once this is done, I'll give my opinion on it, and it's my opinion. Because, you know, Chris standing over here with his truck, he may go, dude, I absolutely love it. And I may go, I understand where you're coming at, but I may not love it. But I'll save those, you know, opinions. I want Jordan's opinion and just kind of talk through it so we can have some differing voices here. So this has been sitting here.
Yeah.
That's one of my questions. Is that it's totally fine? You don't have to cap this.
no, I should have closed this in between.
Okay.
But I'm actually going to pour a tiny bit more in there. But no, this can sit for quite a while, all day while you're applying. Now, what I do want to show you.
Yeah, tons of lint in there.
There's lint in here. And actually, what I meant to show you with the first one. So I'm going to leave this wrapped because I want to show you how you can go back over that with the same one that's wrapped without adding coating to fix those rainbows.
So, and you would not recommend, my kind of thought process was, why not just use a new pad on every panel? You wouldn't recommend doing that because you kind of want it to be absorbed but not overly wet.
Now on each panel, we send 3 of these with the kit. You should probably use 2 on the whole truck. But when you're holding this between coats, enough coating stays in that applicator.
Because it's kind of soaked up into that foam.
It's soaked up that you shouldn't need to re-dip to go over
just
those
to fix.
rainbows.
So like on this hood.
I'm going to leave this one.
Very
I'm going to
cool.
do this new. What do you want to say? Like I said, these sewn edges you kind of want to be careful with. You can get, if you use...
Because I can see just like the lint just piling off of
What we do is super technical.
Yeah,
but
look at the
all
lint
this
coming
lint.
off of there.
So this is an important step actually before, you complain about the directions being long already, but
No, hey, I'm all for directions. I just want to make sure they're clear. So the way I've seen
I don't know how to write that. That's basically...
Yeah, I know. Smack an applicator against your thigh. I think that'd be a little strange. But I think the video portion is going to be more important. So, you know, having this is good and we can go through absolutely everything. So you're ready to go there?
I'm ready to go. I just want to make a point that if you coat, just as an, oh gosh, there's so much lint on this one.
It's insane how much lint's on
And so
that.
these are supposed to be lint-free applicators,
Yeah, they never
right?
are. They always
so
have a
this is
little.
important to get rid of the lint before you dip it, because you saw how much is
Because you're going to
left
cause
in
more
there.
issues if you have lint. So spend a few, I don't know, 30 seconds, a minute doing this to try and get it off.
Yeah.
That is insane how much of that's coming off.
Yeah, and I bet you your little ones pretty much the same. They come from the, you know, the same place, but it's the sewn edges that have the lint. That's really where the lint comes from. But if you take this, I'm just going to show you really quick.
Sure.
With this sewn edge, and if you're applying like this with the sewn edge behind
It's
it,
going to create a
like
weird
this,
finish.
you get lines. So that's why it's really important to have a flat thing. Oh my gosh, I can feel rock chips there.
Yeah. I mean, you
Wow.
can just feel it with that microfiber. And Chris, you have 2,000 miles on this, you said? Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, this is something you're going to run into. And again, I'm genuinely not thinking 9 out of 10 people are going to get their Cybertruck, they're going to go drive it, get it dirty, off-road it, then worry about something like this. So there's still a lot of cleaning involved in here.
So I'm going to do the same thing I did with the first one. Make sure there's no dry spots.
I'll tell you, I do like these applicators much better than these.
Yes.
And these seem to, I mean, as I'm literally just wiping this, and I think that's one thing that Justin mentioned, and he had to redo a few panels, the lint does come off these more, what do you call these, suede?
They're suede.
Yeah.
And we were trying to find, like I said, I think we've tested 6, 8 different kinds of applicators, trying to find the best ones. And we've switched them as we have found. So, so again, I'm going to avoid that, and I'm just going to take this. And I can tell you that at the edges, both top and sides, you are more likely to get drips just because the edge of the panel is pushing into the into the applicator.
So it's like naturally kind of squeezing it out there.
It squeezes it out. So you just kind of have to look at this from every single angle that you can. And the lighting in here is great. The lighting in most people's garage,
Sure.
not great. And you just kind of have to.
So maybe not on this panel, but what I want you to do on one thing is intentionally
Screw it up.
cause a drip and show what you do with that, because I watched you do it a few different ways on your install. It was like this panel, when I first watched you do it, you would keep going over it. So that's what I was, you know, thinking was okay to do, but I think I was letting it tack up too much and then start wiping it.
Like you can see, I'm going back over my first one because usually, again, the first one's thicker.
And is there a feel thing with that? Is it like, because I know you mentioned when installing it should glide smoothly, and when it tacks up.
So that's what, on this panel, you're not going to get that. Even on this one, I was just barely starting to get it down here, and that's why it rainbows. But if you're doing like a full door panel, you might have to dip this again. Not fully completely, and you want to wring it out again.
Just wanna
but
get a
not
little.
wring it out, but you know, squeeze out any excess. And then those are just the larger panels.
Okay.
So, but this is it, and you can see the lines, you can see everything, and everything's going to just level out here.
Yeah, it definitely looks a hell of a lot better than when I installed it.
Thank you.
That's why we want to have the professionals out here. And
Yep.
you know, I'm glad you guys were willing to come out here, because I think I have a lot of questions that a lot of people have. And you know, you mentioned that I didn't call and ask you those. Honestly, I think it's something, I'm a very visual person. I can listen and listen and listen, but like I need to see it, because my brain works a little differently than a DIY guy. I'm like very analytical, watching you how you're doing this. So I see a few different things, but this looks, I mean, 10 times better than when I was doing it, of course. But
yeah. And really, it's just finding your technique. 'Cause
Sure.
once you have the technique, you're good.
Okay.
And then knowing that whatever happens, you can fix it.
Sure. And I think that was the scary thing, is like, okay, so we're putting a bunch of very aggressive products naturally on here with, you know, Xylene or Acetone to get it off. That does concern me a little bit, but like, I do think there are, you know, once you get your technique down, you're not going to have to deal with that quite as much.
And that's why we really encourage, and I'm saying it again, I know I'm repeating myself, really encourage to get your technique down before you do the whole truck, for sure.
Totally understand.
So
cool. So, and then what are you going to do with this one here?
I'm going to wrap it in
so you need
tin
some
foil
more tin foil?
with
Great.
tin
So
foil.
Jordan, just come through here. I just want to kind of show the viewers. So one thing I'm noticing here, and I don't think it may be dust, I don't know, but you kind of see those like little.
That looks like dust to me.
Yeah. So is that okay? Is it kind of going to level out, or?
Those we'll see. That's quite a bit of dust, but we'll see, because sometimes we will walk away like we should.
And they'll.
When I've done testing at our office, we see things and I'm like, oh gosh, that looks awful.
Really?
And then we go in and I'll go do work and I come back and I'm like, it's perfect. So it's it really is surprising. And sometimes another tip that people do, and I don't want to mess this up, but when they apply it, they take the applicator off and it leaves a circle of bubbles.
Sure, sure.
So you want to go up and away. And that's for both applying and removal, is you want to go up and away.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Very cool. So your framing, when would you ever use that? Would that be on doors? Would that be around plastics more? Because these are large panels that you're not, I mean, up here you're a little worried about getting it on that plastic in there, but do you like the framing idea, or is this kind of your preferred method?
Let's go to this side really quick and let me get rid of this applicator, and
Okay.
I'll show you where
Yeah, and again, this side we haven't
touched this side.
We haven't prepped
It's a
this
real
side.
mess. So I would still, if you can take these off, which I have heard from dealers, this is really easy to take off.
So they're pretty easy. I think 50% of the people are going to want to take them off. I think
Otherwise, tape
50%, yeah, let's tape it, because realistically, these are $120,000 trucks, $100,000 for the,
Yeah.
you know, dual motor. They're expensive. I don't think a lot of people are going to want to start taking things off, especially when you're dealing with cameras. It does seem easy, but I'm just, for the DIY guy, I think it's different than
Tape.
professional detailer or somebody who's a little bit more mechanically inclined.
And this as well, I'm gonna tape this, right? Just this underside part.
Tape it.
The reason I say framing is because, like we talked about, you don't want to prep panel at a time. You want you want
Exactly.
this whole thing
Yep.
to be prepped. But if for some reason you're not going to be coating it all at once, then you're going to have some coating here. You know, that's it. That's the
So
only
I
reason
found
to
the same
frame.
thing when I was doing the DIY one. The Cybertruck is very hard to
this
kind
way.
of break up in these panels, because like these gaps, if you get the product
Mm-hmm.
over here, that could be, I guess, a little bit of concern. But are you okay to do multiple panels at once?
Yeah, that's what I would do as far
Okay.
as coating. And again, framing here as well. This little spot down here.
Yeah, it's
this is very helpful. This
Yeah,
is
'cause
where
the other one,
little
it's just
applicator-
like-
it's just big.
Yeah.
So that's where this really comes in handy
Cool.
around here. And then this is why we still include this.
Is this panel.
This panel right here.
You know, funny enough, this
Easiest
was
thing.
my always testing panel when I first started working on
Mm-hmm.
Cybertruck, because I was scared shitless, let's be honest, to like, I went down to Austin,
Figured out which is the cheapest one
yeah,
to
I'm like,
replace.
what is actually going to work? And I'm like, oh, that's got to be the cheapest to replace. So I just tested everything on that panel.
Yeah.
By the time I was done, it had like polka dots all over it, and then hit it with the barkeepers, and it was all good. But I was, yeah, it's a scary truck to work with until you start to learn it. And now I'm finding, you and I were talking off camera, it's like I kind of am almost thinking these are somewhat easier than dealing with paint in a way, because you know, like this Model Y over here, I was spending 40 hours to get this thing totally dialed in, whereas like this can be done in a day.
Yep.
The product will eat this, right?
Yeah, so the solvent in the coatings will melt these soft rubbers, soft plastics. The hard plastics, it's fine, but the soft rubber, soft plastic, it will release the plasticizers, make them sticky. So
We'll definitely try and tape it down. The hard part is it's this rounded edge on here, so getting it perfectly on that edge, I think
you
that's
might
going to
have
be a little
flip
tricky.
it in and flip it up.
That's probably the way to do it, is kind of roll the tape out, stick it under it, and then flip it, and hopefully it sticks there. But
And the other thing about our coatings is, yes, we have all these applicators. If you're really super anal and you want it perfect along here,
Me.
you can actually use little natural bristle artist brushes, and you could go right along that with a brush.
so like
and it'll
those
level out
super
too.
satisfying TikToks where guys are painting without tape on them.
Yeah.
They're like a paintbrush. I love watching those. Those are fun.
But you can do that, and you can use other different kinds. We just send these applicators because it works for overall best
Cool.
of the truck.
So yeah, totally understand the framing thing. So I think there are, I guess, technically 3 different ways that you installed it. I would say the first one you did, your first install guide, don't do that. Yep, cool. So do a large panel. Don't try and break it up. I mean, that's very natural for detailers especially, is I don't do an entire hood. I do half a hood. Sometimes I'll break it up into quarters. So that's why on the video, when you watch me do that, I think I did this panel or this upper area first, then I started to work here, then I worked here, then I worked here, and the bottom. I'm working in 7 different places trying to get a coating that really needs to get wiped in one direction the whole way. So yeah, totally agree. Cool. This is going to be my most interest of panel, because this is huge.
Yeah.
So would you break this one up into 2 sections, or is this just a have at it?
Nope, it's a have at it. You're going to start here.
Sweet.
You're going to take it all the way down here. The good thing about it is these straight lines, right? It's not tucks and so you're just going to go straight here, and you're going to go straight down, and you're going to go straight across, and you're going to go to here, and you're going to go here, and go.
Cool. Jordan, do you have any questions so far? Because I know you helped me in the initial guide. You never saw the actual coating being applied. Any thoughts, concerns, questions?
I think she's pretty much answered my questions this far into the video. We're ways into the video now, but
Yeah, I don't even, for 2 hours probably.
it's a long but very detail-oriented video, which I think is good for the DIYers who are detail-oriented. Yep. And yeah, I mean, it is basically like, you know, there is one little dribble thing here I just noticed, and so it's like, how does that get handled? How long do you have to handle that? But the front looks fantastic, which is not what we said when we first tried.
No, not at all. Yeah, this front part looks great, and I'm not seeing a ton of rainbowing, if any at all. Like, I can see it is like dry, a little wet, a little dry,
Yeah.
and then wet, and that's
when
totally
you,
okay.
That's when you walk away. Cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting to see this applied correctly, I think, of course, is one of the most important, but I genuinely, I really like the coloration of this. It's not giving it that tea staining. Of course, the rainbows don't look good right now, and you would never want to leave it like that. But so how close are we to being able to touch this again? Quite a while, or?
No, I think this is dry to the touch, so I think we can do this one again.
And you can literally just touch it?
I always stick my fingers in wet coating, but...
Yeah, I guess it's... I don't know. I don't want to mess it up.
There was one little wet spot over here that was drying slower.
And you would want to make sure the whole panel's like that.
You would want to make sure the whole panel's like that. Yeah, you're really focusing on doing the whole panel.
Yeah, so one thing I'm noticing, just looking at it this angle here, there's just dust.
That's from your fan.
Yeah, and it does look like a little bit of lint too, so is that that'll come out, no problem?
Oh yeah, this is literally just it's sitting on top.
So it's mostly dry, so some of that
even
can come
like,
off.
so this one stuck a tiny bit because when I blew
Yeah, I
it,
can see
didn't
it.
go up, but that's gonna wipe right away.
Cool.
Literally, it's gonna wipe right off.
Very cool. All right, well, do you want to put this down?
I'd say put it down. I'll be very careful not to touch this still front.
I mean, I can kind of put it down, maybe.
No, put it down all the
way.
Yeah. I have long arms. So this little spot here. So if you can, and I kind of want to show people this. So this little lint here, and even there's a little, if you see, there's a tiny sag, which I can never get on camera. So Jordan.
Oh yeah, Jordan, you can see it from back here. So what she's talking about is it almost somewhat looks like a drip in a way. It's these
called
very
a sag.
Okay. I don't know if you can see that. I can very much see it right in there.
Got it. Yep.
Big cameraman guy over here.
So we're going to fix that. Now, the question is how set this piece of lint is.
So let's say it didn't dry quick enough and you go to touch it and leave prints on there. Is that a big deal? Or you can go in and fix that?
You can fix it.
Cool.
That's the thing. You can fix almost anything. Sometimes the fix is remove and reapply, but you can fix a lot of things without doing that. Now, if you have big drips, big runs.
I've seen some photos of, I know we talked off camera of one install that literally looked like it was
poured on.
Yeah. And I think that's part of just newbie errors. Even I think you can definitely get that microfiber oversaturated and you go to apply it.
Oh yeah.
And I do want to maybe make a mistake in some area and show like, ooh, what do you do with this? Because I know that was a follow-up. It was like a photo, but didn't really get super into it on the install guide. But I think it'll be fascinating. I mean, yeah, I'm anxious to see. So you're good to go now.
Yep. This is all dried to the touch.
Cool.
For sure.
Well, let's just keep it rolling. And I guess if you want to undo it from the foil or.
One thing that I want to do, because because there's some lint in here that I don't want to be there. So normally if it was just the sags, I could just fix it with the applicator. And you know what? This is still a little wet. We might have to stop. There's still just on this edge.
Well, this edge is bent a little. That may be what you're saying.
Oh, maybe. Okay. So what we can do, since this is pretty embedded and it's not just coming out, because like those other lint thingies, those went away. That one is even gone. That I couldn't blow off. It's still there.
It's harder to see here.
It's gone. It just needed, but this one's a little embedded. So what we can try to take it out with more coating, which I'll try, but if not, I'll show you how to use a little bit of the solvent to kind of take a spot off, and then we'll correct it.
Because it's going to it's within that layer, so you're going to knock down that layer a little bit and then re-up it with more coating.
That's exactly what we're going to do. So let me try to get that out first with our, and this is where you kind of have to be careful with the lint in the sewn edge.
So this is still going to be saturated wet. That's why you wrap it, leave the oxygen away from it.
Yep, so it doesn't dry out. If this gets dried out to the point where these are firm, do not use this again. These aren't firm.
Yeah, those are still saturated.
But if it gets firm, like you leave it overnight, don't use it again.
Throw it away.
Throw it away. You will have lines in your second coat. So your first coat's perfect. You're going to get lines in your second coat. You don't want that.
Okay.
So I'm going to just try to, because what this is doing is it's melting that first coat away. Okay.
And are you pressing hard on that? Is it a light application?
Not hard. It's pretty light. But see, it just kind of smoothed it out. Now I'm taking that piece with me. I don't know where that piece is going. But I'm just going to kind of go right back over this whole thing. You got to get good at walking back and forth.
So, and when do you know, I'll get out of your way here, when do you know that like, okay, I need to apply more? Like,
I can start to feel this is starting to pull.
okay, so
and you
no.
feel it. It just gets a little tacky and it's just starting to pull.
I definitely felt that when I was doing it, and I just kind of thought, this is kind of, honestly, I felt it very quickly, and it could have been the different applicator in there, or just me doing it completely wrong, but so oddly satisfying to watch, huh, Jordan?
Yeah, I could film this all day.
Hope you guys are enjoying
kind of
this
am,
on
I
this
think.
long video.
Yeah, you kind of am. Okay, I can just start to feel that pull again, so I'm going.
Yeah, so what would you do there? Like say, okay, on your second layer, I can see, like right here maybe, you didn't get quite enough. Would you dunk that again?
You know,
Or just kind of keep working it a little?
No, you're not going to keep working it, because when you try to work it when it's tacky,
that's
when you make mistakes.
Errors. Okay.
And so
let's just, for example, say, I don't know, the second layer you did, you still had, like this corner here I can see is completely dry. Would you come back in, would you re-dunk that and then touch this, or you just do that?
shoot, and then you get lint.
So is it getting tacky now?
Yeah, it's getting a little tacky.
Okay. So I think you're going to have some folks like myself try and go back in and fix that, and it just got tacky. So then are we now talking about
Now we just leave it.
third layer after that?
We're just
maybe?
going to wait and see how it looks. Like,
Okay.
We're going to leave it alone. We're going to do our walk away, and we're going to let it see what happens, and see how that levels out.
So I do have a question on layers. So I did notice somebody, I was looking through the Cybertruck forums with this product. They had a detailer install 3 layers of it. Is that recommended? Is that going to benefit you in any way?
It's not recommended, and the client requested that.
Okay.
So normally we would do 1 good coat or 2 coats if you have to fix some rainbowing.
Yeah, in this case when we did.
And then that's enough. That
Okay.
really is enough. Because sometimes if you apply that 3rd coat, you're going to screw up the 2nd coat. You know, you don't want to.
Because it's literally like making everything underneath it kind of come back to life and start working around more.
Right, and I think
Understood.
that this got a little tacky, so I'm hoping that it levels out. And
Yeah, I'm
if
already
not,
noticing like this whole edge here, we have some rainbows. So
again, it is so thin and it does blend to itself. So when you're wiping it on, you're not putting on,
gobs of it.
well, you're not also putting on a mil. It's not additive, right?
Okay.
It's going to blend to itself and kind of take some of itself away. So you're not just getting thick.
Okay. So let's say, I watched you do this whole panel. Let's say you get part of the panel perfect, as you would call it. You're happy with it, but let's say like this corner here has rainbows. Do you need to apply that to the whole panel, or can you just do it to that
You can
small
just
area?
do it to the rainbows.
Okay, very cool.
Yeah, normally you'll find it in a streak. So a lot of times you'll be perfect, and then you have one rainbow like here where I missed. You just go right over that, and again it blends to itself. I probably didn't need to do this whole panel again.
Yeah, and that's what I'm curious about, because I mean, just watching you, I'm just trying to wrap my head around like, okay, what would I be doing in this situation? I'll do a panel later on in the video, but like this area, that's where I'm starting to see like, okay, so it's already drying right now. I can still see a little rainbows. So does that mean like in here I can see some rainbowing, in here ever
That's
so
not
slightly?
even dry though. So like I said, this is where you walk away.
I just want to walk away and shut up. Okay,
Yep.
fair enough.
Yep.
Fair enough. Cool.
So yeah, that's where we really need to walk away. That's, you know, we're going to prep
Okay.
the rest of the truck and do the rest of the truck. And then.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. I mean, it's very cool. I like playing with this stuff. It's still a hard product for me to understand, to be totally honest with you. And I'm trying to just, every thought that pops into my head, just like shoot them at you, because I do think a lot of people are going to be like, okay, wait, what do I do here? And they're going to get panicked and have that situation where you did touch it when it's tacky and things like that. So cool. Well,
And
I think
gotta
it looks
say,
sweet.
I am not the perfect applicator either. I am essentially not a DIYer on something like this. You know,
Sure.
I teach small, you know, on
I feel
small
like you have to be
panels.
pretty tedious with this. Like you,
And
yeah.
so you have to be patient, you have to be meticulous, and you have to be able to walk away.
Yep.
And then come back. That's where a lot of people struggle. But just like the DIY guys said, you have to be patient.
Yep.
And you have to, you know, trust the process.
Yep. I mean, for me, it literally, I'm comfortable with coatings around 20 applications that I do. I mean, you know, before that, you're always fighting, and I don't know how this is, but like traditional ceramic coatings that I use install very differently in high humidity versus dry here in Colorado, versus heat versus cold. So it changes all the time. So you really have to know what to look for and adapt to it. But when you're doing ceramic coatings in 5 seconds of flash time, you're like, you got to work quick with this stuff.
Yeah.
It's not, this seems more, I'm liking what I'm seeing because you can work it more if you do make mistakes. It's pretty cool. I mean, I'm interested in what's going on here, very much so.
And also, you said humidity. It's very important to follow the environmental guidelines that are both on the instructions. They're very much outlined in the other video, the second video that we did, because if you do it when it is too humid outside, we had someone do it in Shreveport, Louisiana.
Oh boy.
And their dew point was 79 degrees that day, and the temperature was like up to 90. So dew point is where condensation or moisture sits on a panel. If you coat over moisture with our coatings, it will come off. It will flake off.
It'll flake off.
For his, it flaked off. It will. So you have to really mind the environmental conditions to ensure that the coating success.
So
right?
this says 40 degrees Fahrenheit to 100. So that's pretty average.
That's a wide range.
Humidity below 80%.
And that's where anyone in the South is going to struggle, especially in the summertime. But if they can wait, like you said, go out and drive your truck a bit. Wait until the winter time when it's not so humid. That's going to be really beneficial.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, I get this question all the time. It's like, hey, I'm installing my first ceramic coating. How long do I wait? And coating manufacturers are always like, it's around this time. And even with DIY detail, that's why I screwed up the first panel. I was waiting for it to rainbow, for it to come off. And never did.
Yeah.
So then I applied it a lot thinner. There's so many little nuanced techniques with this that it's hard for somebody to pick stuff up quickly and do it themselves and know exactly what they're doing. It's taken 10 years for me to get to this point where it's just like, I don't really look at things anymore and just like, I know, I can feel it. You know exactly what you're doing. This was a whole new ball game for me where I'm just like, okay, there's a lot to learn here, and I think there's a lot to learn for even newbie installers, of course. Yeah. But it also does seem like newbies are having more luck doing this than pro detailers, which is fascinating.
Yeah, when we started getting question calls, or this isn't working, it was all detailers.
Yeah.
It was all detailers.
We're stuck in our ways.
I know. and it's just so, you hear coatings, you think ceramic, it's just different.
It's so weird, it just pops into my head, this is ceramic coating.
Right, and so, we've had some DIYers, somebody was like, poured myself a couple of cocktails, had some music going.
Sounds like a good night.
Yeah, had a great outcome.
Cool.
So we're gonna walk away.
All right, walk away. So I'm gonna pop this frunk up just to kind of level it because I don't want to get the barkeepers back on this since we've done this the incorrect way. You want to do the whole truck first. But again, we wanted to get this cured because Chris has to take his Cybertruck home tonight. You don't want to get a bunch of bug splatters on not a fully cured coating.
Cured coating, right? Yeah,
Cool.
If you can, you don't want to drive it while it's wet to the touch. If you can avoid driving it for 24 hours, that's even better. You don't have to not drive it for the full 4 to 5 day cure. But just know it's delicate until it's fully cured. So you might have to do some touch-ups, especially on the frunk, if you're driving it within that time frame. And then to wash it, you want to wait at least a week to wash it. So that's
cool. Yeah, we'll go through all the aftercare stuff because a ton of questions there too as well. But Yeah, this looks cool. So we're gonna do the rest of the truck. Probably just throw it on a time lapse for right now, and then yeah, we'll get coating the rest of it and come back to this and see how it looks. So we've been hard at work. We've got the entire rest of the truck prepped, and heard some stuff you saying about the hood here, and it sounds like you're not happy a little bit with the install. So talk to me about what went on and what our plans are, and let's show the viewers what it actually looks like here. So Jordan, what I'm noticing is kind of that self-leveling didn't, or it seemed to be as it was. What happened here, I guess? I'll just let you explain this.
So I think as we were talking, we did the last one in all one shot. So we did this, we started to let it rainbow, we did this. This looks great. This is an ideal one pass, good coat, no rainbows, no drips, ideal, right? Up here, then we went back up here and we should have waited.
Okay.
So while it was it was dry to the touch, it wasn't dry enough. And then I think also I used the applicator and I could start to feel it pull, and I didn't dip soon enough.
Okay.
And so I should have re-dipped that applicator to then apply, because you can still see rainbows here. You can see lines where it pulled upon itself. And so I want to take this off and then redo it.
Okay.
And I also want users to see that when you're not happy with the results, here's how you remove it, because it is very different from what people expect on how to remove it. And it's also, you don't have to remove it all the way. So we're gonna remove it until it's actually ugly, streaky, and then we're gonna go back over it and it'll level again.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, interesting stuff to say the least here. I'm liking how the front's looking. And I'm not saying this to put you down, but it is like, I understand this is part of what folks are gonna have to deal with and I've heard from folks that they constantly are going back and going back and going back and not getting it perfect. So I think let's see how we do this. I'm anxious to see how this is going to come out, but definitely, I know you're not thrilled with this. It definitely doesn't look great, as like Jordan, as you can see in here, it's like it looks like you painted it on,
right.
But that's because we didn't wait long enough.
We didn't wait.
So this ideally is good, because now we can show, okay, here's what happens when you mess up. This looks great down here. Yeah, it's all still a learning curve for this. And again, you're in a different environment here.
Yeah.
You're working at a shop you're not normally at. It's a different climate here. So I think there'll be some fine tuning as we go here. But what do you got going on over in this area?
So again, Xylene does work best when you can get it. It has a longer dwell time. So it just allows you to be able to work the coating.
So meaning it doesn't immediately evaporate.
It doesn't immediately evaporate. Acetone is your next best option. The painter's solvents and whatnot evaporate as soon as you put them down.
They're like rapid.
They're gone.
Yeah. Okay.
So you just have to use more of them, takes a little bit more work.
Okay.
You also will eventually use a microfiber, but I like to start with one of these towels, or even a paper towel that is not linty. You can't have one of the really nice fluffy ones you have, particularly in your kitchen. These are great.
So these are shop towels. Costco sell these. You can get them at AutoZone, things like that. So you do prefer this type of towel for
This type of towel when you're starting, because you're going to use quite a bit of it. And we're going to kind of mop it on. Now I'm going to be very careful not to get it on here, because we're not going to touch this. This looks great. So I'm going to be careful not to let it drip, but we're going to get it on there pretty heavily, because what it has to do is it has to melt that resin again, and then we are going to wipe the resin up and away, or the resin up and away.
Okay.
While this is drying. I'm going to try not to spill on my shoes again, like I did last week. So really, and you can see it start to rainbow immediately.
Whoa.
Because it's taking that resin off.
Jordan, this looks wild.
And it gets very tacky very quickly. And so it's just a matter of you're softening up that resin. Maybe you want a rainbow truck. I don't know. That'd be awesome.
We could make some pretty
Like
cool
a rainbow
designs,
bright. You really could. And then the other thing with this, just like when we were doing our Windex, you want to keep changing out. You notice I have this folded just like we had our microfibers folded. You want to keep changing out your
because you're peeling off that resin right now, and
right
then it's
now
just kind of...
Yeah, right now it's kind of melting it away.
Okay.
And then we're going to wipe it up and off to get it done. And again, you're using quite a liberal amount here of the solvent.
So, and my understanding is this is the same type of situation you do if you get a drip?
If you get drips and runs, same thing. Now, you can be more careful. Like if you have a drip or a run and you want to get it out, you can be like this.
You can kind of get in there a little more aggressive.
You can get in there and you want it
Yeah,
really
so Jordan,
melty.
come look at this here, because you can see it kind of like, I don't think peeled is the right word, but it started to...
It's just removing the resin. It's
Yeah,
melting
right
that
here.
resin down. And so again, with the Xylene, really you have so much more dwell time. But, so then we're wiping up and away. And so this is when we're going to switch out or switch our surfaces. Again, making sure you have clean surfaces. If you don't continue, I should have 2 gloves on. If you don't have clean surfaces, then all you're doing is smearing the resin back into the surface. So you want to make sure you're keeping a clean surface, and you can feel it. I don't know if you want to try it, Coleton, but you can feel it tack, and then you can, so people say when you start to remove it, it gets sticky. It does get sticky. That didn't work.
So I did remove this, I guess the first time. It took me 30 minutes or so to do one door to totally remove it. And I was just like wiping and wiping and wiping. And again, the Xylene would be better for that. But I think it's very important to know, if you guys are going to recommend that, we need to have a caveat that, hey, you can't likely buy, because you have a ton of California Cybertruck owners everywhere. So
yes, we see them. We play Cybertruck tag now.
is this okay to touch like this, or am I?
Yeah.
Wow, that feels wild.
So you're wiping up and away.
So how do you know when to stop with this? Because are you looking for something here?
You're really feeling for it. You're really feeling for it because you can feel where there's coating. You can feel it stick. You can feel it pull.
So are you fully stripping this, or you're just trying to get it to a nice
I'm
even?
going to get it, and actually I'm not even going to get it nice even. I'm going to blow your mind again.
Sweet.
I'm going to get it, I'm going to let it get it even just streaky, and then we're going to coat right over the streaks. We're going to get some more of this off, but we're going to coat right over the streaks and it'll level itself out. This is taking it down to a really thin coat, hence the rainbowing. Like you can see there, it's thicker. And I shouldn't be rubbing that in. I should be wiping up and away. And really, you kind of want to get it really rainbowy, but you can just feel it. It'll stop pulling when most of the coating is gone.
So let me ask you the question, why would you not want to fully strip it?
Because you don't need to. It's more work.
And this has no issues with the longevity of it. This isn't just because it's self-leveling, self-annealing, all of that fun stuff. That's why it's able to go back in there. And so you essentially have your base layer. Like if you want to think about this, this is your base layer. Say this is the top of what we just finished. All you're doing is shrinking that down and then adding more. Obviously it's on a different level here for scale, but
Yeah, you're basically just taking it down to a very thin coat and then redoing it. Now, if you wanted to remove it all the way, like you did for the truck, then you just keep going until it's all gone. And again, it'll stop rainbowing. You'll stop like this. I can feel right here. There's still a lot of coating right there.
it's wild. Like I'm just imagining somebody who's never coated this truck, like say Jordan, like how would Jordan know when to stop on this?
Well, I mean, you could keep going to the end if you wanted to. You could keep taking it down to nothing if you wanted to.
Okay.
But if you're going to reapply, you don't have to.
Understood.
And it's just, honestly, it's just a feel.
I know, I'm just trying to like help the viewers, like, hey, I'm in this situation, I'm watching this video back, I'm on this same part. want to try and describe this more so they can understand of like.
So when you pull along right now, it feels
let me
like
see
it's
if
on.
I can feel this.
Yeah, it's on bare metal, and it starts to pull. You'll feel the towel pull, just like you know how you feel the towel
so I
pull
feel
on
it right
rock
here.
chips.
Yeah.
Right, because it was thicker. Right, you'll probably feel it right there too, because they're still not rainbowy there.
Huh.
You know how you can feel the rock chips
Yeah,
pull?
so it's like smooth, and then you'll feel like, yeah, the rock chips is probably a good description of it. Should I keep wiping this area?
I would
Or?
just finish this one and we'll.
So come straight down?
Yeah. And you could, right here, there's still some, so you'll probably feel it pull right there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Feel
definitely.
that?
And I can feel this is getting
Cold.
gel. I can feel the.
So that's when you got to make sure you're changing out your surfaces.
Okay.
That folding is always really important. I'm going to leave it like that. Believe it or not.
Hey. Okay. I'm all for it. Wow, it looks wild. And it's changed so much. You can see like a lot of the rainbows have gone away from just that one wipe, but.
And I'm going to get a fresh applicator. Okay, and I'm going to go back to the smacking it on my leg, make sure there's no lint. So much lint.
It's crazy.
But you know, we have like our normal ones are terry fiber and they're so much
You almost need to like
worse.
throw these in the dryer for like a couple minutes and just let everything go away. But then
Except in your dryer, you've got
other
fabric
stuff.
softener,
Yeah,
right?
true.
Which you
I mean,
don't.
not here at the shop.
No.
That's a video I need to
that's
do
true.
too, Jordan, is how to wash and maintain microfibers.
I'd watched that 3
throw
times, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So now we're going back to coating.
So
we
now
don't have to do any steps there.
Yep.
And no issue with it because it's evaporated. It's not wet right now.
And that's again why it's important to use xylene acetone to remove it. Some people try to use mineral spirits or a lacquer thinner, and those have oils in them that are left on the surface. So if you use something like that, you have to do a clean wipe, denatured alcohol, ISO, to make sure there's no oil left.
What do you think?
Dude, it's wild. Like you can feel it's definitely still there because otherwise it would feel very smooth like this stainless over here. I mean, you still get some of that.
Come right here, Jordan, come right over here. So this little spot right here.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about
That's
that.
what you call high spot, right?
Yep, perfect.
You know, I've been paying attention.
Good for you. Love it.
Okay, those kinds of things you need to get off because those really are high spots.
And that's not going to come back out when you, like if you would have left that, it would have looked weird.
It would have been an uneven spot.
So like here too.
Yep, anywhere. And this is the thing, the lighting is so important.
Yeah, I'm imagining somebody like, in a normal garage, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing, like even my home garage is not lit properly. Like when you have basically studio lights essentially like this, very much helpful. That's why I've spent so much money getting these lights completely dialed how I need them, but wow.
So we're gonna go with the new applicator. And fill it all back up, same thing.
Dip a dunk.
Dip. And then squeeze out, right?
Yep.
So you saw it was really, really saturated at
Yep,
first.
and now I can see it's not dripping.
It's not dripping.
Cool.
So we're gonna start again. There we go. Just tough to do to not get it on the panel
Adjacent,
next to it,
yep.
right?
And we did find, importantly, that those drips we had came immediately off with the barkeepers when we were doing the rest of the truck.
And I think that's because they
It's an
really
abrasive.
didn't. It's an abrasive, but also the coating really didn't have a chance to
Fully cure,
set up.
sure. So again, I think one of the challenging things you may run into here is if somebody's like not comfortable doing an entire hood, they may try and do it in half. But then you may run into the issue where like this is kind of cured up and you start your second side and then you start to peel up maybe that middle section. So that's why you're doing it in the full.
Doing it in the full and then also walking back and forth also really helps you get a good indication of, you can see things from different angles, right? And you can see, like I can see I'm pretty heavy over here. I'm pulling this
So
back
I'm
down.
surprised you're still wiping that there.
Well, it's because it's heavy and I can see that it's heavy.
So we've got a drip going on up here. Jordan,
Yep.
if you can come over here, maybe if you can wait real quick
Yep.
for Jordan. I don't want to screw this up, but I do want to show that. So that you can tell very heavy.
Yep. And so you don't want to leave that. And so you do have
Okay, so say somebody
time.
notices this a minute after this is like sitting right now. Can they still go back and wipe it, or do they need to wait again?
I'd say if you're doing it right now, you're okay.
Okay.
I'd say there's a little bit here that now I'm a little hesitant to go right there, even though I can see that it's been there.
Yep.
I'm still a little hesitant to go back to it now. So I'm going to leave it. I'm going to leave that.
Walk
Okay.
away.
Walk
Yeah,
away.
walk
Thanks,
away.
Jordan. I need tinfoil for this.
Yeah, just some thoughts here. I mean, to me, this is a technique heavy product.
For
like
sure.
there is a lot of technique going on here, and I still think people are going to get somewhat in trouble with it. I do think, yeah, okay, I've seen how you can fix those areas. I'm anxious to see how this kind of cures out. This definitely looks the thickest, I would say, you've applied it compared to, the front and then the first application. So yeah, I mean, I think that's where honestly a few people are going to struggle, is understanding how much do I do, how little do I do, and it seems like you're kind of having to touch up these areas. So with how you installed this, do you foresee you having to go back over this now?
You have to wait and see.
Okay, so
Yeah.
we're just gonna walk.
Yep.
We'll see this later.
Yep.
Okay, cool. So let's get the rest of the truck wiped down. We're gonna do a time lapse on the rest of it. You guys have seen how this is applied. I think you've got a good concept of it. I've got a decent concept as well. Kind of starting to run out of time. You guys have to fly back to California, and we want to get the whole truck done. So let's keep moving along. But any other thoughts here,
Nope. Don't.
Jordan?
Let's go.
Let's go. So we just walked away for a little bit. We actually went to have lunch. So Jackie coated the entire truck, all of the remaining panels that we had not done before. And it looks like we need a bit of a second coat. So I want to walk around and talk about that, and I think kind of dispel some of the questions that I had, again, with the rainbowing. But let's just kind of walk around and see how it looks here. So first off, the front end looks really nice. I'm very thrilled with how the color looks. It looks quite even. There are a few spots, if I'm being super particular, that we're going to talk about here. So the hood, again, we coated this, we somewhat stripped it, coated it again, and there's a few small areas. So here, definite rainbow mark in here where it seems like it got a little bit light. I'm also noticing some, it's very hard to pick up on camera, Jordan. Maybe in here you can see a little bit of texturing. I'm curious if that could be from doing the acetone on there, and maybe it was a high spot, as we were talking about, that we may have missed
We
there.
might have missed that high spot. Yep. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the coating and the applicator, and we're going to do right over this swipe. Because if you notice, that high spot's right outside of that rainbow
Yep,
wing.
it definitely
So we're
is.
going to do one swipe across this whole thing, and then we're going to leave it. We're not going to redo the whole thing. There's no need to put more coating on this.
Cool.
Just right in this one little spot.
It's crazy to me, just like the texture, looking how smoothed out it has been. Again, that self-leveling looks great. This panel's been, I think, the one you've been most happy with. So this was one application on here. If I'm being, again, ultra nitpicky, I saw one or two small little stripes in there of that rainbowing. We can address that. Now down this side is where you can kind of see there's a few different panels. So I watched you guys do this panel back here, this very large panel. It looked like it went on a bit thicker, but most even. I would say this panel probably turned out the best out of the remaining ones that we did.
We've got one little spot there, one little spot there that we're going to touch up.
And here as well. So you guys were using the framing on this, and we didn't film this side, but essentially, again, the framing was, she came in with the small applicator getting this edge filled in. So that's good. Here, lots of rainbowing going on.
We're just going to totally put more on that whole panel and this whole panel, and we can see there's rainbowing here and here. We're just going to add a little bit more.
And this panel, I know you said you completely ran out of coating, and we're like,
I was getting really hungry, and so I just went really quickly along that.
Sure. So, I mean, it does, in one regard, I would say a little bit of a negative is it does seem like there is kind of times you have to go touch up areas here and there. Is it really a negative? I don't know. That can be to the end user, but I will say it's not like I think if you get your technique absolutely perfect, but again, you guys installed this, you like going a little bit lighter instead of heavy.
Yep.
Now we did have some dripping on the rear, quickly wipe those up so it wasn't an issue, but I do think, you know, just fine tuning that. You guys knocked this out quick.
That went very, very
The prep
quickly.
was 5 times longer than actually applying the coating. I'm impressed, to be honest.
And we're going to do the same thing. And when you do the second coat, you want to go even faster. And so you guys, I think I would like to film this in real time.
Yep.
Because at least parts of it in real time, because you need to move the applicator along quickly. Because again, it starts to melt itself.
Sure.
And you don't want it to get stuck. And if you go slow and try to be meticulous, it gets stuck. So you just got to go quick.
So that kind of brings to my mind of like the detailer's mentality of going slow and even may actually work against you in this particular case. Jordan, around this side, similar things going on. We have a little bit of, I guess you call it sagging in here yet again. We also have a little bit of dust here. The crazy thing though, no fingerprints.
Nothing. That's the thing. So we're going to do this second coat. So we're going to even all this out. And yes, no fingerprints.
Jordan, any thoughts? Because I'm curious of your perspective on this as well.
My mind just can't get past the fact of no fingerprints.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
So my initial reaction was, I don't know if I love how shiny it is. Like, it's noticeably more mirror-like, but that's actually grown on me quite a bit. We've seen the chrome truck recently that's been out, that was like polished to death, and that's like too shiny. This is actually a muted shiny that I'm okay with. And just the no fingerprints thing is
very cool.
That's enough for me to be like, yep, this is what I want.
You know what's cool about this too, Jackie, is, okay, so I would say this is kind of in between PPF and a normal ceramic coating. It does add a little shine. I will say it does take some of the stainless texture away, which could be a negative for some people. Looking at it now though, my big concern going into this, I voiced this to you off camera, was you're gonna lose that nice stainless steel look. I'm excited to get it outside because I can still see the grain, but it looks like it's underneath a clear coat a little bit. But I do like this better than paint protection film. It's a nice even color on here and it's a good sheen. So,
and if you notice, the banding on the doors did not come back.
It did not, which it did with the DIY detail.
Right.
Actually, well, it's hard to tell. I think we need to do a little bit more work, but you can still see it a little bit, but those little fingerprints we were talking about earlier, totally gone.
Yeah. Yep, so we're gonna do second coat, whole thing. We're gonna make it quick. And
yeah, you gotta get rocking here. You have an hour and 10 minutes until you have to leave, so.
Yeah, but this was the fast part, like we said, the application's quick. All the hard work's done.
Cool. Let's get rocking.
Okay.
You're dunking in here. Just want to get more of that coating going in there, not necessarily just pulling it straight out and going, because I think you were running into that. We're not putting enough on there. So,
so I'm going to do one good swipe across this hood, right where this rainbow is.
Yeah, moving way faster.
Moving way faster on this second coat. And so I'm not touching the frunk. Jordan, if you want to come over here. I'm just going to fix this little spot here. And I'm going to go right up here. And this is going to correct all of this rainbowing along this whole top.
Yeah, look how immediately that takes that away.
And I'm just going to follow this all the way down to here. Although I think this panel's pretty good. I think we've got one little, I'm going to go down this way. And you got to move fast when you're doing this second one, because it, like I said, it'll start to melt itself. One little thing there.
So is it best on this to kind of, instead of like, you're not applying it and stopping in the middle of the panel, you kind of want to go all the way through?
No, you want to do the whole panel if you can. And I'm going to go right along here. And I'm just going to do a quick pass on this whole panel, because this panel is a little rainbowy.
So crazy to me that you can just continually go back over it after it dries. And that's something you can do even after care, right? Like a year later, you're saying.
Oh yeah, more, or even, you know, even more than that. So now I've got a little heavy right here because I was on that edge that I told you guys not to be on.
Yeah, it seems to me with this, it's a lot of technique, and I think that's where I really struggled the first time I applied this. So I would say, you know, I'm liking the appearance of this, and if you are struggling, this video is going to be very helpful, I think, to a lot of people, because yes, it's very long and it may be hard to go back and find. Again, we put chapters in all this so you can go back and forth, but don't get discouraged with it. And I think that's one of the main things where I went completely wrong, is just going, oh my God, I'm terrified using this, and completely destroy it. So I'm pretty darn impressed so far here, Jordan. What about you?
Yeah, it's more forgiving than I expected, I think.
Right.
And that comes from the self leveling, self annealing.
Yeah, it's really those two properties together that make it really easy.
I do want to just point this out here too. I know you're on that door. We got a big drip over here.
Okay.
Because I know that's something you want to get as quickly as possible.
You do too.
Perfect.
On here.
And it looks like we got a little under the mirror.
Yeah, having that, can you grab me the little
Sure.
applicator? Because that really does.
So again, this is the little applicator that they like to use in more of the, I guess, really smaller areas, especially like up here when you're working around the mirrors. It's just crazy how fast, to me, Jordan, this goes on too. Like how quickly you can do the whole truck once you get it prepped.
And if you do enough prep, I mean, if you get used to the barkeeper stuff, it goes on faster too.
Yeah, I mean, we had all of us kind of working on it
Tag
and
team.
knocked it out within an hour.
How many people can you have helping with your Cybertruck? That'll change the whole experience.
Have some buddies, get some Coors Lights, have yourself a party.
Okay, let me see that one really quick.
I do know this is an unbelievably long video, but I'm super glad that these guys came out here, had their time here. We could have more of a conversation. Again, this would have never gone as well as this had I picked up the phone and called. And I really think this is going to dispel a lot of myths, a lot of confusion with the product. I'm pretty blown away with what I'm seeing here so far. I think one thing you may need to be aware of is chasing perfection on this. It's going to drive you nuts. So for me, like doing this constantly is really going to be frustrating, I may say. So just understand it. You might have a few areas that are not 100% perfect, but it does seem like you can go back and fix them, take a deep breath, go eat lunch, come back and do it again.
Walk away.
Walk away. I love that, because it's one of those things, your brain, no matter if you've done this, because I've watched both of you go back and want to like keep touching it, and you're like, oh, we gotta stop.
It's hard for us too.
Yes.
And it is so hard, you're right. Chasing perfection is a challenge with this for sure.
Yeah, and I think again that the detailer situation, I'm always going for, as nice as humanly possible. And I think, when I'm working on cars for 40 hours, I still miss things, but I'm trying to get 99.9% of things. And realistically, I think this is like 95%. I'm thrilled with some things. There's a few little areas that I'll be curious to see how they kind of work themselves out. But I'm really just, how you can keep applying this is wild. I know, I'm just like in a trance right now, just like watching this. It's so cool. It's really neat.
We made rainbows, we're making them disappear.
Yeah. So we have finished up the Cybertruck now, fully coated in ProtectaClear. And Jordan, I want your impression first. I'll give my impression. And yeah, so Jordan, what do you think of how it came out, how it looks?
I am definitely impressed, Coleton. I was initially concerned because I knew, even from like rough preliminary testing, obviously our earlier stuff was rough. We didn't really know what we were doing.
Yep.
But I was nervous about how shiny it would be. And this is actually, to me, about the right amount of shiny. It's not like as reflective as a mirror or like a chrome finish. It's definitely more reflective than it was as raw stainless steel. But I really like it. And I will say, like, it's not 1000% perfect if you look really close, but also the other side of that argument is who's actually doing that. And I would take a quote-unquote 5-foot paint job over the fingerprints, which you can see from hundreds of feet away. And those fingerprints drive me nuts. So I'm willing to do anything to get rid of fingerprints. So that's kind of why I am like ultra thrilled right now.
Cool. Yeah, I iterate a lot of what you have to say. Now again, I do think it's not 100% perfect, and I think that's completely okay. I think that's an okay criticism to have about the product.
Absolutely.
It's a hand applied product. I don't think you're ever going to get it 100% perfect. Like there's still some areas I'm seeing on here that need a little bit of touch up here and there. Do apologize for the absolute hurricane we're in, or tornado. I don't know. We are in eastern Colorado at this point. I gotta say, Jackie, one of the biggest things with this, I'm impressed with the finish. It's a great gloss on here. It reminds me of PPF, but it's better, I would say, than how the PPF traditionally works. I'm very anxious to test this on what it does with rock chips. What happens when a bird poops on it? You get tree sap on it. Is it gonna scratch like crazy? So we'll probably have some upcoming videos. Again, our out of spec Cybertruck is coated with DIY detail metal coating. And then we have this. Finish to finish wise, Jordan, and I think you would agree with me, I prefer this actually.
I agree. I like that this is the more pure, kind of like After Barkeeper's Friend. It's just like a nice, bright stainless steel. Like this is what I wish my fridge looked like. Whereas the DIY detail is a bit more yellow.
Yeah, that's tea staining. It's that warmth.
It's the tea staining, which some people might like. Like it is subjective, which is cool. Like there's not necessarily a really right or wrong, but I like this a lot. And as Kyle's is ceramic coated, the fingerprints can be wiped off, but the fingerprints are there.
100% still fingerprints, but my impression with it, with the DIY detail coating, apologize, we're just comparing you back and forth to this company, but okay. I do think it's important. Those are the two main coatings right now.
And really, I think that they're both DIY hand-applied coatings that people have to be patient with. They have to be meticulous with. It gives a nice finish. Now, they're different finishes, but they're both
very
nice
different
finishes. And ours really, you know, the benefit of ours we knew because we have an appliance kit for refrigerators. It stops those fingerprints.
I mean, seriously, like this is just, there's nothing. Like it's wild.
Nothing.
And I am still, Jordan, getting a little bit more of that texture coming out of it, of the stainless steel. You can really see the grain. I was a little concerned about that when it was sitting in the shop. Can really see that. I wish it was a little sunnier out. Again, I think this is not for, I have to have this concours level 100% perfect, but I think we're so close there that if you really refine your technique over and over, you can really make it look nice. So I don't really have much more to say. Jordan, any other thoughts here?
I'm just impressed that you can continually refine it, and that is the saving grace. I mean, I was getting nervous when we first started doing it, but then just the fact that it continuously like holds to itself. All the terms that you used earlier that I forgot, self-annealing,
self-leveling, those two.
Those are the saving grace and actually the magic. Like it's not only like
it's really magic when you apply it. It's like she's putting this off or putting it on in here. I'm like, this looks like shit, to be honest. And I'm like, do I say anything? I'm just like, okay, let's go with it. Let's go with it. And that's where I went wrong in the first place, of just trying to overwork the product, not understanding the ins and outs and nuances. And again, I do apologize this video is long, but I really do think this is a vital video for people to watch who have a lot of questions about this, who want to protect their truck with something. This is, Jordan, I gotta say, like I would honestly prefer this over DIY detail metal coat at this point. Now comes a question of longevity. Is this gonna, what are these gonna look like after a year, after 2 years, after 3 years? Like that'll be more things that we're gonna figure out on this channel. So lastly, thank you so much for coming out.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. And no, there's no beef here. I understand there's frustration on Everbrite's side and from Jackie.
And your side.
Things happen. Yes. I mean, we're still in a very new space with Cybertruck. And just please understand that things may change over time. So we'll revisit this. I'm really anxious. I know Chris has said we can come check out the truck whenever, so I'll be making trips down to Colorado Springs or somewhere in between where I can go do an update video with his truck, with our truck. So please stay tuned. And thank you guys so much for watching another out of spec detailing video. And thank you again, Jackie, for coming out.